It's now time for Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, live on the Woodward Sports Network. Every day, 2 to 4 p.m. Starring Ryan Ermanni, Michigan great and former NFL baller Braylon Edwards, and of course, Tom Mazaway. Let's talk some sports.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. I am Flannel Sam filling in for Ryan Ermanni. The man to my right is Braylon Edwards. We've got JV Smooth in the sound booth and Fletch on the ones and twos in the technical director booth. And Braylon, you know what was cool about today?
What's cool about
today?
So
I was in the sound booth for Big D Energy, as I am every day, 11
Shout
to 1.
out to Big D Energy.
Absolutely great show. And right as the show was going on, certain Jeff Okudah news broke.
Now, is this about the jersey number or is this about something else?
Oh, there's actually a couple. There's a couple angles we could hit it from, but we're going to talk about that later in segment number 1, of course, because I know that's what you guys are all dying to hear. But Braylon Edwards, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, man. Good day. I think we had a really good show yesterday. I was able to get a little bit more rest because Easter had a lot of family over. Was babysitting my niece, so rested yesterday. Good show, good start to the week, and then football. The sport that keeps on giving. They gave us something else today that we'll talk about. Other than that, man, I'm feeling good. I'm rocking and rolling, man. I got something I want to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
I got something that's been buzzing me. It's a certain player in the second round that people around the city, some people here in the studio, and some people other places, they think we need to draft, and I'm here to potentially dispel those rumors.
I'm not gonna lie, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
When we get to that segment, I'm just gonna toss it up and then let you do your thing.
Pause.
JB Smooth, how you feeling today, my guy?
Oh, I'm good. Just got the news earlier back there too as well. When you were in the sound booth too, the whole back room was freaking out as well. So,
the whole back room.
Yeah.
You guys, you got to be on your toes in this business because a lot of times news doesn't break. We're late to it, we're early to it, but this is kind of the show where we can focus our entire show from the beginning. Not the whole show on Jeff Okudah, but know that it's on the agenda. I don't know if you can do a whole show on Jeff Okudah, but it's a big deal.
True,
It's a big deal.
And it goes to do with the Detroit Lions, who are the topic of the town right now. The number one topic is the Detroit Lions. We talk about it every day because we have to and we should. They're in a situation to make this team and this team in this city very proud. So got to talk about him, and guess what? He plays or played for the Detroit Lions.
Played. Oh, yeah. Now we have to officially say played. And the Lions right now are our biggest hope for the city, I would say. But the team that is not that far behind actually just closed out their home schedule last night. That is the Detroit Red Wings. They lost 6-1 in their final home game of the season to the Dallas Stars. But I would say for the most part this season, other than a few disappointments this season, has been a success. They're now 35-10. That's 80 points. You saw development from Mo Sider. You locked up Dylan Larkin. We saw that he is at the very least a viable 2C for the future. And when they found out that they couldn't win, when they made that run where I was chugging Kool-Aid thinking they're going to the playoffs, but right after that, they went on a little bit of a skid, but they sold. They got draft picks for Filip Hronek. They got draft picks for Tyler Bertuzzi. They sold away Sundqvist and they sold away Jacob Verana. So Braylon Edwards, are you happy with how the season went as a whole?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy how the season went as a whole. I think one of the big things they did coming into the season is they get Villahuso and they also get a new goaltending coach. That made them better. The problem was 2 seasons ago, they gave up so many freaking goals. They scored 7, give up 8. They scored 9, they give up 10. So I think they got better on the goaltending side of things. Hronek, that's one I'm not sure of. I'm not sure if that move is going to be a good one right now. The Bertuzzi move, I understand. Hey, you know what? That Ottawa Center series, they took him out of, and we realized we really can't get to the postseason. We realized, you know what? Let's get some more picks for Bertuzzi. He's not going to work here. It hurt the team, but I think that was a smart move. You look at what's happened in the last 4 years. You go from, 13 wins to 17 wins, 17 wins to 30 wins, 30 wins to 35 wins, to 32 to 35. So, you've moved in the right direction. Now it's time to take that next stance. I don't think Stevie Y by no means is on the hot seat. Stevie Y, we understand the eyes are playing, as D-Mac says all the time. He's putting it in the right situation for himself. I think going into this offseason, now is the time I think the Detroit Red Wings make a move. I think next season, if the Red Wings don't make the playoffs, not only that, if they don't finish maybe 6th seed, I think now is the time to question Steve Eisman. Right now, no time to question him. I like how the season ended. I like how they're going into 2023. And I think next year is a 5-6 seed waiting for the Detroit Red Wings.
I mean, there's no bigger Steve Yzerman supporter at this station than the man who sits here from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., Darren McCarty. And Darren McCarty obviously has the advantage of being a former player, his former teammate for a while. And nobody touts the Weiser Plan 1919 quite like Darren McCarty. But even he says next year's the year. They got to make the playoffs. They have to show something. And with all the picks that they got for those trades, thank you, Rick Ross. They might have created a little bit of a war chest to go after someone. So I'm pretty excited about that. Fletch, I know you're a big Red Wings guy. What's your take on the Red Wings season?
I was really happy with the Red Wings season, actually. Yeah. I mean, when they were making close to a playoff run, I mean, they looked good. I think that a lot of people, I mean, even I, who has been saying forever to people in the back, like, trade Bertuzzi, like,
yeah,
he's not worth the
definitely
time.
Saying that.
I didn't want him. And I mean, even I was upset over that, but now I'm sitting here and I'm looking at what they're doing. I'm looking at even moves that they're making right now. I mean, sending Edvinson down, calling another guy up. Like, they're looking good. And regardless of whether or not they made the playoffs this year, even if they don't make them next year, I enjoy watching those games. And it's the same way with the Lions, but I'm sitting here with other two Detroit teams where I can't watch the games, and I'm not enjoying myself watching the games. So no complaints here. I'm having fun.
I would say this. I would even go so far as to say this. You look at Troy Weaver, and you look at Steve Yzerman. If Troy Weaver drafts Brandon Miller or Victor Wembanyama and they don't make the playoffs, or they don't get at least to that 42-win mark this season, and then Yzerman and they don't make the playoffs, both of those GMs are going to be in trouble. Troy Weaver possibly could get fired if it doesn't work with the Pistons, and then Yzerman, then he really will become on the hot seat going into 2024.
I'll tell you what, though, speaking of Troy Weaver, that 2020 draft class is not aging very well at all. I mean, 2021 and 2022, I think we're happy about Cade and Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, but hey, we're talking about.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this about Cade. We're just shooting the breeze on a beautiful Tuesday. You know, we're having some fun on Woodward Sports Network, Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. Your thoughts on Cade when we first got him. So, see me, we get him in 2021. You get Cade Cunningham. I'm watching his Oklahoma State film. Like, this guy can play. You know, the kid can play some ball. But were you that excited? And then from that point, are you still excited at this current point? Say you, Flannel Sam.
Well, I was excited. He is the guy that I wanted because Cade Cunningham to me is the type of player that is more of a winning player that makes all others around him better. I don't really feel that way about Jalen Green, and I still don't feel that way. Evan Mobley,
he still plays.
Yeah, he still plays, but Evan Mobley, he's looking pretty damn good for Cleveland. He might be Defensive Player of the Year, or at least, and he's averaging about 16. Yeah, he's averaging about 16 and 9. But yeah, Cade Cunningham, I like what I saw. I like what I saw last season. He obviously put all of his skills on display. I think he averaged, 17, 6, and 6, something like that. Yeah. Not very efficient, but that's okay. He was asked to do so much on kind of a crappy team. And honestly, he's sort of this year paying the injury tax. I hate to say it. Yeah. And not with me. I still believe in Cade Cunningham, but we haven't seen him play in a while. And without him, the Pistons look pretty bad. I believe if Cade Cunningham wouldn't have been hurt, that they would have at least won 25 games. 25 games is nothing to write home about, but it's a hell of a lot more than 17 and being the worst team in the NBA. But that could benefit them because greater odds to get the number 1 overall pick. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. I just wanted to ask about Cade Cunningham. I hadn't had a chance to pick your brain about him. I like him as well. I think, like you said, a lot was on display for Cade earlier that year before he got hurt. So I'm with you. I like Cade. I want to see what happens next year, depending on who we draft. I think it'd be really good next year for the Pistons.
Well, speaking of teams that there's very little hope about, how about the Detroit Tigers and their dreadful start to this season? I know we didn't get to talk about it a lot yesterday, but
nothing to talk about.
There's nothing to talk about.
Nothing to talk about.
But you know what? Let's just dive into how bad it's actually been. Their starters through the first 9 games, 1-7 with a 7.49 ERA, with 23 walks, 24 strikeouts. And you know what? Obviously, that is beyond terrible. But Javi Baez has been
oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a whole systemic team problem. And then
I could get a single playing against these guys.
You probably could. And I mean, it's mainly been to me a Spencer Turnbull and an Eduardo Rodriguez problem. But this team, man, I had a little bit of hope when they won the first 2 at Houston. I know it was a little bit, I mean, not hope that they were actually going to be good, but that's going into Houston, the defending World Series champions, and actually playing pretty well. But the way that they just took that ass whooping to the Red Sox, 3 games.
I put it to you like this, and the thing that sucks about that for the Red Sox aren't that good right now. Red Sox haven't been that Red Sox team in the last 3 years. But going back to that, I didn't even pay or take stake in that Houston game. There's no Altuve, there's no Verlander, and I know they're not the only 2 players on the team that just won the World Series. I get that, but those are like baseball. It's 162 games. Houston Astros aren't there thinking about the Detroit Tigers and losing that game. They're thinking about getting players back, getting players in the rhythm, getting that season in the rhythm. They're not worried about that. So when they won those 2 games, I'm like, these do not reflect who the Tigers are. This does not reflect who the Houston Astros are. Simply put, when I hear that the pitching is struggling, considering in the last 4 years we spent all our draft picks on pitching, to hear that the pitching's struggling, it just bothers me, man. Like I understand that it's a new change right now. Scott Harris, he just got here. It's going to take some time to get things right. But in the meantime, between time, I can talk about what I see, and what I see is nothing that I care to watch.
I mean, you mentioned the pitching. Casey Mize was a #1 overall pick, and he's still on the IL. We don't know what he's going to become. Tarek Skubal was not as high of a pick, but last year he looked like one of their biggest hopes. He had a good year, but then he went down.
Spencer Tomer, you're trying to figure out what's still going on with him. He started off good in spring training, but guess what? That's spring training. It doesn't matter during the regular season.
Spencer Turnbull has been terrible his first 2 starts, but maybe he can get it back together. Yeah. Matt Manning has been okay. Fletch, I know it's keeping you up at night. I see you look tired. What's your thoughts on the Detroit Tigers?
Hold on, but let me ask you a specified question. Have you seen anything with the Detroit Tigers that has given you cause to be excited? Have you seen anything?
Yes.
Okay. Is that
short answer? Yes. Long answer, I believe that the team has things going for them that are really good. They also have things going for them that are horrible, and I think that this is a horrible baseball team that's going to take 3 years to get out of the gutter. But Torkelson, good player. I don't care what anybody says. If he had a good team around him and he was young on a team like the Astros, he would be going nuts because he has people to learn from. Riley Green's been doing phenomenal. Vierling batted like 350 over the past week. But you also have people that are eating up all of your money. They look like crap. I mean, Javi Baez was batting, 8% or something like that?
It's 121 now, but that's terrible.
Okay, so that was after he got 2 hits in a game. And then now you're looking at I can't watch this team and enjoy myself. It hurts to watch. I don't want to bore people anymore, but I mean, at some point, the city has to say either we're not going to games, which they basically already have, or the Illiches need to sell the team. Like, I feel like I'm an ass for saying that, but they've taken the team in the wrong direction. They've put all of their cards on the Red Wings, and now the city's sitting here coming from when I was 11 years old, looking at a team that was good. And now, me at 22, I don't know what's going on anymore, and I don't like watching baseball in this city.
You're the biggest baseball fan that I know here.
Although I agree with you in terms of what they've done in that period, Fletch, you're 100% right. It has been a very horrible stretch to watch. Maybe since 2000, I'd say after the 2014 season, it started right then, maybe 2015. I understand that, but I'd say, and yeah, I understand exactly what you say about, Chris doing the Red Wings as well as the Tiger. That is a big thing. Red Wings, we know, are going to be the bread and butter, the number one, the one he cares most about. That's the one his pops cares most about, so that's where he's going to be. I still got to give them a little time because Scott Harris can be something special. Yeah. Scott Harris is a proven winner. He's done that with the Cubs. He's done that out with the Giants, turned that organization back around, getting them back started. I want to give him his time. We've given guys out of Villa that didn't necessarily know what they were doing some time. I want to give Scott Harris some time before I go to sell route. But 3 years, and I'm with you.
You know what? That's funny that you mentioned that about Scott Harris, and we'll get to the break in a second. But Scott Harris, I think, was a good hire. I mean, he was the GM of that 2021 San Francisco Giants team that had the best record in all of baseball.
100%.
Above the Dodgers, who obviously have been one of the best and most consistent regular season winners. Hey, I mean, they do tend to choke in the playoffs. It is unfortunate. But they did get one, and that's all right.
They did.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about what everybody is here to talk about. And
is that the second round of the draft? Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped in there.
The second round of the draft. I know you're chomping at the bit, but that's okay.
I jumped the gun.
We're talking about Jeff Okudah.
Okay.
But first, I have to tell you about Fairway Packing. Looking for a way to elevate dinner? Choose Fairway Packing Company, family owned and operated since 1956. Try their Burrata Blend burgers, award-winning chop house steaks, or impress your friends with a dry-aged Wagyu tomahawk steak. See why the top chefs in the country choose Fairway. Visit their steak shop in Grosse Pointe Woods or order online to ship anywhere. Visit fairwaypacking.com for more details. Fairway Packing Company, sourced, cut, aged, packed to perfection.
Saturdays at 1 p.m. Make sure you're watching WoodwardSports.com for our new show, Chompin' Puck.
He shoots! He scores!
With four-time Stanley Cup champion Darren McCarty and Michael Gentry, Chompin' Puck is taking the Detroit hockey community and giving them a voice. Pros to Joes. You'll get the best Detroit hockey coverage around. Chompin' Puck. Saturdays 1 p.m. on WoodwardSports.com.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
Have an opinion? Make sure it's seen and heard. Corner, jumper, tweet us, hop on the YouTube chat, slide in the DMS at Woodward Sports on all social media.
Welcome back to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. I am Flannel Sam, filling in for the great Ryan Ermanni. We got Braylon Edwards to my right, JV Smooth in the sound booth, and Fletch on the ones and twos. So, Braylon, did anything interesting happen this afternoon with regards to the Detroit Lions? Anything at all?
They did. Jeff Okudah was released by the Detroit Lions. Oh, he was traded, excuse me. He was traded to the Atlanta Falcons for a 5th-round pick. This, Flannel Sam, is what you and I spent 35 to 40 minutes talking about yesterday with Fletch and JB. This is a good situation. You know, the Lions, they get rid of Jeff Okudah. And let me not say it like that. Not get rid of Jeff Okudah. Jeff Okudah was a great in terms of in the city of Detroit. They trade Jeff Okudah. Jeff Okudah gets to go to Atlanta Falcons, a team on the uprise. They're doing a lot so far in this offseason. I like what they did last year. They were in every game. They were one of Maz's sleeper teams in every game last year. They covered all the spreads. They fought to the end. Really got something going on down there. So I think he'll be happy down there in Atlanta. It's a fresh start. And I think Detroit Lions, you put him in a good situation. You get a 5th pick in return. And now you can use that 5th pick in 2023. So I think everything worked out for everybody involved. And I'm excited for both people because I think he can win in Atlanta. But I know Brad Holmes can win with that 5th pick here in Detroit.
I would agree with that 100%. And here's the thing about Jeff Okudah. In a lot of ways, he was the victim of circumstances, the victim of being the 3rd overall pick to a Matt Patricia coach team and a Matt Patricia defense that got absolutely zero pressure.
Is he a linebackers coach somewhere now? I
don't even know what he's doing. He was an offensive coordinator for New England Patriots last year, which was a disaster in its own right. But the 2020 team, that was the Matt Patricia team where they got absolutely no pressure on the quarterback whatsoever. Jeff Okudah didn't really have much of a chance. He had an injury. He had a bad season. And then, of course, the next season goes down with an Achilles, which is devastating. And then in 2022, you admire what he did to come back and play well at certain times. But like I said yesterday, a 97 passer rating allowed. And you saw what Brad Holmes did in the offseason, sort of solidifying the secondary for the Detroit Lions. Emmanuel Mosley, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Cam Sutton. And the sad reality of it all is that when you look at Jeff Okudah's legacy with the Detroit Lions, being the 3rd overall pick, now seeing that it is completely and utterly shut, he's gone, he's traded, he's going to go down as one of the biggest busts in Detroit Lions history. He's going to be mentioned in the same right as guys like Charles Rogers, Mike Williams, Andre Ware, Joey Harrington, and Eric Ebron. Whether that's fair or not, fine. But when you're the 3rd overall pick, you basically have very little of a contributing career to your team, and then you're traded. That's not good.
Yeah, 100%. It sucks. He is a victim of circumstance, and look, life isn't fair. Life isn't fair. So, being that said, you know, it won't look good for him in terms of a Detroit resume. You look at last year. The big thing for me in terms of assessing him versus assessing everything else is at the halfway point, with 10 games left in the season, that's kind of the mark that we go from the last 10 games because the Lions were 8-2 in that stretch. The defense got much better in that stretch. The defensive line got pressure on the quarterbacks. Aiden Hutchinson in that span had an additional 5.5 sacks in that span. You look at what James Houston was able to do in that span. You look at even Pascal had 3 sacks or 2.5 sacks in that span. So everybody did better, even on the defense side. You see what Kirby Joseph did in that span of time. Everybody on defense played better. Except number one, Jeff Okudah. And I kind of look at it from that way. I think I assess it that way. I take out the first 2 years of injuries. I take out him having to come back early on in the year. I look at just that last 10 games where everyone on defense seems to play better except Jeff Okudah. And I think in that span, look, Brad Holmes is coming here and he's looked at the people that Matt Patricia has put in place with the Detroit Lions, and he gave them a chance. Hey, look, let me see what you can do this year. I won't necessarily get rid of you right away. He gave them a fair chance to showcase their talents. He didn't like what he saw out of certain individuals. Certain individuals are getting moved. You're noticing it's less and less and less of the team that's constructed by Quinn Tricia and the more the team that was structured by him. But I will say this. Where you start is not where you finish.
Right.
And so for Jeff Okudah, yes, his 3-year period, the Detroit Lions, will not be a good memory. It won't be good for the city of Detroit. They'll be like, oh, this guy and blah, blah, blah. But he's going over to green pastures. He's now going down to Atlanta. Hopefully he can resurrect his career and get it going back on whatever he now sets his goal as. This is where I see myself. This is now success for Jeff Okudah moving forward from the Detroit Lions. So I hope that happens for him because there's people that forget I played for the Cleveland Browns, but they just see me as back-to-back AFC Championship games with the New York Jets. So it's not where you start, Jeff. It's where you finish. And, my hat's off to him. I hope he has success down there in Atlanta.
Well, they shouldn't forget your career with the Browns because you had a 16-touchdown season.
This is about Jeff Okudah.
I know it's about Jeff Okudah, but it is a different situation. I got to give you flowers for that. And the thing about Jeff Okudah,
they can forget that 4th year with the Browns, though. That wasn't the best one.
Then you know what? That's all right.
Humility, baby.
You take the good with the bad, and you obviously look, we're better from it.
You mix it up, and that's what you are.
Absolutely. And the thing about Jeff Okudah too is that I think there is a chance that he goes to Atlanta and is at least a contributing member for the team. Yeah. And I don't mind it. He's not one of those guys that I'm worried about, we got rid of him and now he's going to be a Pro Bowler for Atlanta. And one of the reasons why is because ever since Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn left, he was replaced by, or were fired, he was replaced by Brad Holmes, who has made so many good draft picks since then that Jeff Okudah has kind of been rendered null and void, and specifically, and also what they did in free agency, which they specifically went after the secondary. True. At this point, they just don't really need him.
I think the other thing, too, is, you got to look at it from this standpoint, Flannel short sleeve. I see you rocking the short sleeve today, though. I like that. But you got to look at it from this standpoint. In Detroit, Jeff Okudah, whether he's going to Coney Island, whether he's going to Myers, whether he's going to Imagine, whether he's going to, meetings, wherever he's going in Detroit, he's going to always be seen as the third pick that didn't work out.
Yeah.
He's going and it sucks, but that's just how it is. That's Jeff Okudah. That's the bust. Or that's Jeff Okudah. That's the guy that Quinn Tricia messed up. Or you don't want that. When he's now in Atlanta, even on his team to a certain extent, some guys might look at him that way. In Atlanta, he won't be looked at that way. He can go get something. He can go out. He won't be Jeff Okudah, the bust 3rd-round pick. He'll be the guy that just got traded to the Falcons that can help the team, and we'll see what he does. So I think just the way you looked at even changes the narrative.
100%. Yeah. And the thing about Jeff Okudah, which is, we got to tell the whole story too. What they were able to get for him, the haul, a 5th-round pick, which I know you predicted possibly a 3rd. I'm still okay with the 5th. Yeah. And next year, the only thing that the Lions will owe Jeff Okudah is the $5 million of dead cap. So it does free up a little bit of cap space if you want to get another free agent, if you want to make a trade, if you want to get maybe Teddy Bridgewater, which we talked about yesterday. Now you have more leeway to do it.
Yeah.
And the thing too is getting a 5th-round pick for certain GMs, it might not seem like a big deal. It might seem like, it's going to be a wasted pick. But with Brad Holmes, he got James Houston and Malcolm Rodriguez in the 6th round. He got Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th.
Ooh.
So you might be looking at, and I know it's hard to ask for a GM to hit that high of a rate. You might be looking at a starter with this 5th-round pick. So I'm very, very happy that the Lions did this. I think the future is very, very bright. I can't wait for the season. I kind of have the hopium flowing through. I'm surprised they didn't come in with. Come in with the blue Kool-Aid, obvious. But I think this is a good day to be a Detroit Lion.
But the good thing about it is I don't even think it's blue Kool-Aid anymore. I just think it's it's a part of the lifeblood now. I think these guys are starting to show you that it's not Kool-Aid. They really are trying to rack up wins. They're really racking up a better defense. They're really showing you that they can play offense now. They're really showing you they're a professional organization now, so I don't even think it's blue Kool-Aid anymore. But yeah, it is a good time for the Detroit Lions. Good time to be a fan. Jeff Okudah. The thing about this that I love is Brad Holmes has shown us, and you just said, you give me a draft pick, I'll give you a starter. You give me a draft pick, I'll give you somebody that fits the mold of this team. You give me a draft pick, and I'm going to use it well. Like, it's not going to go to waste. So it's now kind of sort of where players might leave, and you might think players deserve a higher draft pick in return. You might now be more comfortable with, like, you know what, I think we could have got a third for him, but a 4 is fine because I know Brad Holmes is going to make a 4-3. I know Brad Holmes is going to make a 3-2. I know he's going to make a 6-5 just of how he's drafting. So you can get a draft pick for a guy, I'm all for it with Brad Holmes behind the pool.
I mean, speaking of Brad Holmes and draft picks, now that they got rid of or traded Jeff Okudah, is it more likely that they draft a cornerback in either the first or second round or any round just for depth? I mean, there's a lot available. You could get maybe a Joey Porter Jr., Cam Smith. It is a very, very deep cornerback draft. I'm forgetting a few names. Deontay Banks. Yeah, Emmanuel Forbes. There's a lot going on there. And I think that it's plausible to think, especially with Emmanuel Mosley and C.J. Gardner-Johnson being on one-year contracts, maybe Brad Holmes is looking to find Jeff Okudah's replacement, a first-round draft pick that actually pans out. Is there anyone that intrigues you?
Christian Gonzalez, I mean, you see him in the back screen right there. Great job by Fletcher. He went right to it. He put that up there. You guys got great chemistry, by the way. Like, I was telling my mom this yesterday. Like, you guys kind of, like, you guys work together too much. It's creepy. Like, you always know what he's about to say, and you always know what he's about to put up. But anyway, you look at somebody like Christian Gonzalez. Now, look, 6 is a high pick. But when I'm seeing people put Miles Murphy at 6, when I see people put, dumb stuff like that, I'm like, why not Christian Gonzalez? You're talking about a guy that's 6'1", a guy that's 210 pounds, a guy that runs 4'3", a guy that can jump out the gym, he's 40, a guy that has long arms, a guy that's been a guy that's been damn good at both institutions that he played at. And you, like you said, Mosley, 1-year deal. Talking about Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton is on a 2-year deal. He's a 2-year deal.
3-year, $33
million, excuse me. But you're talking about 1-year deals. Now, you're talking about potentially, we're seeing what you can do. We're trying to give you a prove-it deal and see what you'll be in 2024. You draft a guy like this guy's a stud. This guy can make tackles. This guy can cover in space. I like to see him in and outside. This is a guy, something he can do. I mean, you're going to need a DB. Like, you're going to need a DB1. You're going to need a DB2. You're going to need him for the long haul. And if this is something you look at the getting rid of Okudah, you look at the depth chart right now, it's good in terms of the ones. Like, the depth chart is really good in terms of the ones and maybe a little bit of, part 2. But with the DBs in this draft, 18, you can look at getting a Joey Porter there, at junior there. Just so many moves to be made, though. That's why it's fun to have this conversation. Like, now it's getting back to being fun talking about the draft. Like, are you going to do this? Can you do this? Well, this position looks bleak. I think DB is a serious need that they've shown you they want to address, and I don't think they're done addressing it just yet.
Of course. And when I mention the guys that I mentioned, of course, Devon Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez,
Yep.
I'm thinking more in terms of 18, and I don't think they're going to be there. But if Joey Porter Jr. is there, I'll tell you what, I don't know if he will, but I would run to the podium. He's my favorite. If I were Brad Holmes, he's my favorite corner in this draft. I loved him at Penn State. I love his physical nature. And I saw a stat. In 73 career coverage snaps versus Ohio State, wide receiver Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., names like that, he has allowed a grand total of 45 yards. So Joey Porter Jr. can play. Wow. He's the guy that I would want to.
He's a C.J. Stroud stopper.
He is a C.J. Stroud stopper.
Yeah.
He's the guy that if they were to go that route, he's the guy that I would want at 18, although there are a bunch of good names. I don't know. The good thing about now, though, is that they've made so many good moves in free agency. They've made so many good draft picks that there's a lot of freedom in this draft.
The one thing about it is if we're just talking about from that standpoint, if we're talking about those guys being locked and loaded at pick 6, pick 18, then sure, this is something that I would like to see a Joey Porter Jr. at 18, and I don't think those other guys can get to that point. I don't want Christian at 6, but I don't think any of those guys are going to get to 18 outside of him. But if you're talking about the move-up thing, see, I think Brad Holmes is moving up at 6 to 3. Like, I think Brad Holmes is one of those guys. The Lions are one of those teams that have reached out to the Arizona Cardinals, but I think they're the only ones that's reaching out not for a quarterback. I believe they're reaching out for Will Anderson Jr. if they move up to 3, or I believe they'll move up from 18 to 12 or 13 to get Bijan Robinson. I think they're either moving up from 6 to 3, and it's for Will Anderson Jr., or they're moving up from 18 to 14, 13, and this would be John Robinson.
Well, speaking of the Lions drafting Will Anderson Jr., that is a very, very good segue because Mel Kiper came out with a mock draft. It may or may not have the Lions taking him in the first round.
Ooh.
We will get into it, and then in a segment after that, I'm going to let Braylon unleash on a certain second-round player that's mocked to them.
And, by the way, Flannel, somebody just requested a trade that will come into play when I start talking about the second round for the Detroit Lions.
And I promise you, it is a big name. When I heard it, I'm like, oh, snap. That might be someone the Lions should absolutely target. But first, I got to tell you about Cousins Maine Lobster. Woodward Sports loves lobster. And what's a better way to get your fix than Cousins Maine Lobster? With 2 trucks rolling around Detroit, you can be sure to find the best lobster rolls, lobster tots, and lobster tacos to power through the day. Go to cousinsmainelobster.com to find the schedule.
By now you know me, Christina Gennari, as the obvious choice in real estate. And you know my website, soldchristina.com, as your #1 resource for buying or selling your home. Myself, along with my amazing staff, pride ourselves on making your home buying and selling experience a relaxing and easy one. Come see why we are the obvious choice. Christina Gennari at soldchristina.com, the obvious choice in real estate.
Walk into any Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men for an award-winning haircut experience and automatically enter for your chance to win not 1, but 2 vehicles of your choice, courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. That's right, 2 cars, 1 for you, 1 for your wife, your girlfriend, or your best bud. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime, sign in, sit down, watch your favorite team play, and before you know it, your hair will be game ready. Let one of our talented, award-winning stylists make you look handsome and clean. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, it's wicked awesome.
Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America. Woodward Sports, the first sports network born in Detroit and made for Detroit.
Welcome back to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, and let's get right into it. I have never wanted a mock draft. I've never wanted Mel Kiper's at least first pick for the Lions to be right than what he has mocked to the Lions coming up in this next 2023 draft with the number 6 overall pick. And let me preface this.
Let's do this. Let's have some fun with this. What are his first 5? Because I think people outside of, like, people in Detroit, they care about them first 5 too. What does he have for the first 5, Flannel?
I believe he has Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and then Jalen Carter.
So Seattle taking Jalen Carter.
Seattle taking Jalen Carter, and there is a trade up. I believe Arizona trades their pick to I don't remember who, but anywho, that leaves it open for the Detroit Lions at number 6 overall to draft Will Anderson.
There we go.
You talked about them trading up to 3 to get Will Anderson, a move that I wouldn't be opposed to, by the way. But if they can stand pat and get Will Anderson at number 6 overall, I think I'm going to do a backflip at the draft party, and I can't even do a flip on a trampoline. But I'll do one that day.
Yo, if they can get Will Anderson if they can get Will Anderson Jr. at 6, this would be amazing for the Detroit Lions. Let me start here. 1, there are a lot of quarterbacks being talked about taking right now. Everybody's trying to move up. Everybody, it went from 2 to 1 to 3 to 2 to now it's 4. You're talking about 1 through 4 are going to be quarterbacks, and then 5 potentially Jalen Carter. This will be an amazing move, and this is why. He was the number 1 projected player a year ago. You're talking about last year's draft. They had him over Aiden Hutchinson. They had him over Trayvon Walker. They had him over Evan Neal. They had him over Sauce Gardner. They had him over everybody. Going into this season, they had him as well. And obviously, if this wasn't such a quarterback-driven draft, Will Anderson Jr. still probably would be the number 1 rated player. You're talking about a guy that could play linebacker. He could play inside. He could play outside. He could play, when I say inside, outside, I'm talking about covering wide receivers. I'm talking about covering tight ends. I'm talking about covering running backs as well. His speed to the quarterback is like no other. His instincts, when you snap that football, he goes 0 to 100 real quick, like Drake says. So you can get him at 6 without moving up, without giving away draft cap. You'll know this before the draft, which is even the better thing I like about it. They know going into the day before the draft what decisions are going to be made 1 through 4. So they know if this is going to be a possibility. If this is a thing, it would be amazing because I feel like, yes, I want Jalen Carter on that D-line, but if you can get Will Anderson, you can get a guy, Will Anderson Jr., you can get a guy that can play linebacker, kind of sort of like Micah Parsons to a certain extent. He's not as strong as Micah Parsons, so Micah can go inside and cause havoc. He's not that strong like Micah, but he's just as close as Micah. So you're talking about getting a Micah Parsons type player to go along with Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, talking about Isaiah Buggs, talking about James Houston, and you're talking about now building where their secondary is. Man, you just got me excited.
Absolutely. Will Anderson, quite simply, is one of the best college defensive players I've ever seen.
100.
Certainly of my time as a college football fan. I mean, you look at his career at Alabama, 34 sacks, 58 tackles for loss in his career, and in his 2021 dominant season in which he could have very easily won the Heisman but didn't even make it to New York. That's another story.
Somebody else did, though.
Somebody else did, Aiden Hutchinson. 17.5 sacks, 31 tackles for loss, 101 tackles total. When you talk about Will Anderson, you don't just talk about how he would have been the number 1 overall pick in the last draft, which he certainly would have. He was a much better prospect than even Aiden Hutchinson. You see how Aiden Hutchinson has turned out. You talk about him as in the same likes of like an Ndamukong Suh when you talk about best defensive college players ever.
Another Heisman finalist.
Terrell Suggs, Ed Reed,
another Heisman
Sean Taylor, Charles Woodson, Julius Peppers. You talk about him and that
Chase Young.
Chase Young, another one. And in that list that I just mentioned, besides Chase Young and Sean Taylor, because his career was tragically cut short, those are Hall of Famers.
Both Redskins, by the way.
And I'll tell you what,
Commanders.
Yes. If you put Will Anderson and pair him with Aiden Hutchinson, that could be one of, if they both pan out to what you think they could be, that could be one of the deadliest pass rushing duos of all time.
Here's the other thing about that, Sam. I'm glad you said that. Pair them together. Listen, no disrespect to my alumni brother at the University of Michigan. Will Anderson Jr. is a better player than Aiden Hutchinson. So he's going to get more of the look. He'll get more of the focus. He'll get more of the double teams. He'll get all that. You know who now eats because Will Anderson Jr. is on that field? Aiden Hutchinson, who's already a number 2 pick overall. You put Will Anderson Jr. on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson and allow Will Anderson Jr. to become that focus like that. My God, he's eating on that backside. You see how the Cowboys' defensive line looks when Micah Parsons becomes the focus. They all ate last year.
And we're not even taking into account James Houston. Imagine having Will Anderson and Aiden Hutchinson, and then James Houston is obviously your third string, and all he has to worry about is just getting to the quarterback. Think about this. James Houston got to the quarterback at a historically great clip last year, not just for rookies, for players. He had more sacks than games played. If he continues at that pace, he's the greatest defensive end of all time. Obviously, he's not going to, but that is still insane. Just imagine opposing quarterbacks going up against.
Coached by Deion.
Deion's
the greatest of all time, so maybe some of that greatness rubbed off on Houston. We don't know.
I certainly hope so. So, JB, quick question. If the Lions are able to land Will Anderson at number 6 overall, will you do a backflip with me at the draft party?
If I could do a backflip physically, yes.
I can't do a backflip.
I would absolutely do it. I'll cartwheel down some stairs or something. I don't know what I'll do, but just the idea that the Lions could quite possibly take Will Anderson if Mel Kiper's mock draft just somehow, some way happens, it would be amazing. It would be the best day, and the Lions have a set future right there for themselves as endless possibilities of where it could go.
Well, along with drafting Will Anderson, which I think we all agree would be a phenomenal pick and would help this defense tremendously, at number 18, that mock draft, Mel Kiper's has the Lions selecting, man, Ryan Ermanni would be happy to see this.
Where's Ryan? Back. Somebody call Ryan right now.
Well, I'm sure wherever he is, when he saw this news, he wasn't able to stand up for at least an hour, if you catch my drift.
Sand between his toes.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson, running back from Texas. I know Ryan Ermanni is all for it. What say you, Braylon Edwards? And this is assuming that they already get Will Anderson. What do you think, Bijan Robinson 18?
If Browns and the Detroit Lions get Will Anderson Jr. at 6 and then they get Bijan Robinson at 18 and they both fall to them without having to move up or either one of these situations, the Lions can forget the rest of the draft. The Lions are done. That's it. That's all they needed. That's all they needed. You mean to tell me to get Bijan Robinson at 18, they don't have to move up to get there, to get Will Anderson Jr. at 6 without moving up? Draft's over. We're good. You guys can have the rest of our picks. Like, this is what the Detroit Lions need. I appreciate that, JB. Bijan Robinson is the best running back since Saquon Barkley. Barkley, you saw what he did at Penn State. You've seen what he's done in the NFL. Bijan Robinson is along that same line. Catches the ball out the backfield. He can hit the home run. He can run between the tackles. He can take on the tackle. He can block. He picks up the blitz. Like, this is something that would be really, really, really damn good for the Detroit Lions. And now you get him. You can move swift. You can. Because I'm being honest, and there's no disrespect to DeAndre Swift, who I hope we get on the show soon. You got Bijan Robinson and you got David Montgomery. I'm saying you can now see, just like for Jeff Okudah, somebody that wasn't necessarily proven, you got a 5th rounder. Well, I think DeAndre Swift is proven more than Jeff Okudah. 4th rounder for him, maybe? maybe sneak to a 3. So this is amazing. If it happens like this, Mel, kudos, my God. This is good for the Detroit Lions.
Bijan Robinson's the type of talent that he could, I think if he pans out the way that we expect him to be, he could go right into the NFL and be a top 3 to 5 running back in his rookie season. And think about this.
It's open. Like the NFL right now, Flannel, is open for running backs.
Yeah.
And when you think the top of the list, you know Jonathan Taylor's the best running back when he's healthy. Jonathan Taylor's 1. Who's 2? You're like, Derrick Henry, a lot of injuries, a bigger guy, slowing down a little bit. Dalvin Cook. Kevin O'Connell doesn't want to give him the ball. Is it Christian McCaffrey? Well, he sits out 37% of the plays, trying to make sure that he's healthy enough for those 63% of those plays. It's wild. Is it Josh Jacobs? Can he do that again? So it's wide open for a guy like Bijan.
I mean, the shelf life for running backs is they have such short careers on the average, and you see them, they're like Commons, they're like Todd Gurley, they're like Sean Alexander, even guys back then. 1 minute they're great, and the next minute they're done. And the thing about Bijan Robinson, which I thought about this when I was on Big D Energy earlier. The Lions obviously have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and it's certainly up and coming, probably going to be top 5 next year. There was a certain other super highly drafted prospect named Ezekiel Elliott, who was basically his draft class's Bijan Robinson, that type of can't-miss running back. He goes to the Dallas Cowboys, who also have a great offensive line at the time. You had Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, and Travis Fredericks at the peak of their powers. He leads the NFL in rushing, I believe.
1,600 yards.
1,600 yards. I'm not saying that Bijan Robinson is going to do that necessarily, but if you put him with that offensive line, he's going to, I mean, he's not going to have to, he might go 3-4 yards before he's even touched a lot of the time. And Bijan Robinson, like you said, he's got it all: the size, the speed, the vision, the breakaway speed, be able to go through tackles, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. One of my favorite stats on Bijan Robinson last year, he averaged 16.5 yards per catch. I know a lot of that was yak yardage, but still.
Doesn't matter.
Bijan Robinson,
it's the SEC.
He could be the best running back in the NFL in 3 to 5 years. And if he's a Lion, I'm getting excited. I'm becoming Ryan Ermanni right before your eyes.
And the thing about it too, for those of you out there who are like, but look at what Ezekiel Elliott's contract did for the Dallas Cowboys, how it handicapped them. Nobody told Jerry Jones to pay Ezekiel Elliott all that money. Like, Jerry Jones is an overpayer because he falls in love with quarterbacks, he falls in love with running back. This has been him since 1990. This has been him. Brad Holmes wouldn't be that guy with Bijan Robinson. He's not going to pay him a salary that's going to handicap the Detroit Lions. So he would pay him a salary that was befitting of his skill. You know the mad scientist is going to figure it out. That would be a damn good move for Bijan Robinson, and they wouldn't be dumb like Jerry Jones. So don't think about Ezekiel Elliott and the money and blah, blah, blah. That was Jerry Jones. That's an outlier move.
Well, think about it. If you have Bijan Robinson and he's on his rookie deal, you pick up his 5th-year option. Even if you have 5 years as having one of the best running backs in the NFL, that would be phenomenal. And when we talk about the Lions and their Super Bowl window, some people think it's now. I happen to believe that it's starting right about now. If you have 5 years of Bijan Robinson for cheap, I think that their offense could even go higher than it was last year. And I want to touch on Ezekiel Elliott really quick. I feel like he's gotten a little bit disrespected. People forget how good he was his first 5 years in the NFL. He was talked about as being one of the best, if not the best running back in the NFL, basically from his rookie year till about year 4 or 5.
They were 13-3 his rookie year.
They were.
And that ain't because of Dak Prescott or Tony Romo. That's because of Ezekiel Elliott.
It's because Ezekiel Elliott, and obviously the offensive line had a lot to do
100%.
with it, but that's fine. Somebody had to hit the holes. Pause. But I'm just saying.
You got here.
I'm not saying that Bijan Robinson, if the Lions draft him, is going to be rookie Ezekiel Elliott. I'm just saying there's a comparison of a highly drafted, a high prospect running back going to a great situation with a great offensive line and shows out immediately. And if you do draft Bijan Robinson in the first round, this is kind of a warning. He has to become that for it to be a good pick. You have to really believe in Bijan Robinson. I certainly do. And a lot of it, too, has to do with the fact that it's given the fact that they already got Will Anderson Jr.
Yeah.
That in combination is better to me than just Bijan Robinson on an island by himself, obviously. But it all depends. But Bijan Robinson, I would not be pounding the table at all. I think he's definitely one of the best college backs I've ever seen. Certainly the best since Saquon Barkley as far as prospects go, as you already mentioned.
Yeah, I put it to you this way. Like, if we're being honest, you get those 2 picks. You get 6 and 18. Will Anderson Jr., Bijan Robinson. That's going to be the greatest draft the Detroit Lions ever had.
Ooh.
I mean, think about it. I mean, obviously, yeah, you're talking about two guys right now that are both ranked number one at their position. One guy could be ranked number one in everybody in that draft. Getting both of those guys within 12 picks of each other in the same round without having to give anything, without having to move back and make something happen. Getting all that's called the best first round in Detroit Lions history. Barry Sanders, I get it. And Dominican, I get it. Calvin, I get it. This is the best round. First round, Detroit Lions history.
And I know you'll back me up on this. In a different era, if this were the 70s or 80s, we might be looking at Bijan Robinson as the number one overall pick. The way that the NFL has changed, running backs are kind of more of a dime a dozen. But back in the day, he would have been like an Earl Campbell, O.J. Simpson kind of type prospect, Walter Payton.
Hey, he's damn good. Because his running style, he would have been definitely like an Emmitt Smith.
Or Emmitt Smith.
Yeah, he's the Emmitt Smith type running back.
Only the all-time leading rusher in NFL history.
I mean,
He's not better than Barry or Walter Payton or Jim Brown, but he's still the all-time leading rusher in NFL history.
That's why I didn't say Barry. I don't be disrespecting Barry.
Yes, but the moment that we've all been waiting for, I've certainly been waiting for, is coming up next. There's a certain second-round prospect that Mel Kiper has the Lions taking, and Braylon Edwards is not on board.
No, I am not.
You are not on board.
I am not. He blew it. Mel, you blew it. You were doing so good, Mel. I saw 6, I saw 18, and here comes 48.
And then we're going to talk also about the certain other player that requested a trade. But first, if I need to loosen up my arm at all, I go to the Foaling Warehouse. The Foaling Warehouse in Hamtramck is the home of the original football bowling game. 2 ways to play, $12 unlimited open play or $120 lane reservation for up to 10 people. Got the $2 mystery beer machine and full bar. Check it out at the Foaling Warehouse or visit their website at foalingwarehouse.com.
It's a great day to get some Centron in your life. Okay. There it is. Centron, here we go. Gotta grab the cranberry. Oh wait, it's 2 for $4. Gotta double up with the classic as well. Centron World, baby. Centron, available at select Krogers, and if you want to know how, go to @CentronWorld.com. You get dope like me. You know what? Why wait? Great taste, guaranteed.
You're about to be shell-shocked. The catch of the day is in. Big Boy Seafood Fest is officially back. Join us for some of your favorites like our popcorn shrimp and pike perch platters and our classic fish and chips. This year, we've reeled in some fresh catches like our shrimp Alfredo, shrimp stir fry, and our fish sandwich. And especially, don't forget about our all-you-can-eat Friday night fish fry buffet. Every day is a fish fry at Big Boy.
The only sports network in Detroit that starts with a W. You know, because we win. Woodward Sports, Detroit's winning sports network.
Planet Fitness is home to the judgment-free zone where you can work out in a non-intimidating, judgment-free atmosphere. The gym that has always been known for being clean is now cleaner than ever, with tons of equipment, a full-body workout in a 30-minute circuit, and all memberships include fitness training. But the best part about all this, you get it all just for $10 a month.
Only $10?
Yes, Flannel, only $10 a month. Now, your fitness is essential and a key part of your physical and mental well-being. Join Planet Fitness in club today, or as always, check them out online at planetfitness.com.
Welcome back to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. I am Flannel Sam. I got Braylon Edwards to my right, JB Smooth in the sound booth, and
shout out
Fletch
Baydoun
on the ones and twos. And yes, Adam Baydoun has entered the building. Yes, because I think Adam Baydoun disagrees with you. But you know what?
It's okay.
What I teased before this break is that in the second round, pick 48, Mel Kiper has the Detroit Lions selecting Iowa linebacker Jack Campbell. And I saw in the group chat earlier and before the show, Braylon, you are not on board with that pick at all. What say you?
What is this, 1985?
Ooh.
Is this 1990? Notice how as soon as you said that, Adam ran his little ass up out of here because he didn't want to hear what I had to say about Jack Campbell. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Campbell had a really good career at Iowa. Just like every other defensive player at Iowa. Made a lot of tackles, probably made first team All-American, made Big Ten probably 2 times in a row. I know for a fact, I'm being funny about it right now. He's a good college player. He's a great Big Ten linebacker. Ladies and gentlemen, this ain't 2005. This isn't Brian Urlacher. This does not work. He's 6'5". He's 243. He's slow as molasses. He's a stick in the mud. Plays in the Big Ten. He's 6'5", 243, and runs a 4.65. Who are you checking in 4.65, 6'5" in the NFL? Who you checking George Kittle? You checking Travis Kelce? Are you checking T.J. Hockenson? Are you checking Dalton Schultz? Are you checking Dallas Goedert? Are you checking any wide receivers with that? Are you going to be able to match up on Bijan Robinson coming out of the backfield? Are you going to be able to match up on Saquon Barkley coming out of the backfield? How long does it take you to make a play and decide in your mind? It takes him forever. Watch the Minnesota game. It takes him forever to get to Tanner Morgan. Tanner Morgan is one of the slowest quarterbacks in the country. Look at the success he had. It was in the Big Ten. It was in the Big Ten. The Big Ten's not good, and he's a linebacker. Of course he's going to have success against Minnesota. All they do is run the ball to Muhammad. Of course he's going to have success against Nebraska. Their coach just got fired. Of course he's going to have success against every other team in the Big Ten. Not named Ohio State, not named Michigan, not named Penn State. This will be the dumbest move ever. Look at the linebackers in the NFL right now. Darius Leonard was a second-round pick. You think he's pretty good?
Oh, yeah.
Fred Warner, third-round pick. You think he's pretty good? Bobby Wagner, second-round pick. Eric Kendricks, second-round pick. These are players that were drafted in the second round. All of those players are top 10 linebackers in the NFL right now. They can run. They're 6'2", 6'3". They're 235, 227. They can move. They can cover wide receivers. They run somewhere between 4'3". 4.50 is the cutoff. 4.50 was the cutoff. Do not draft Jack Campbell in the second round at pick 48, who's 6'5", 243, and runs a 4.65. You name me the last linebacker that's played in the NFL that has been successful, not named Paul Puslesny. And not named he who cannot play anymore in Ryan Shazier out of Ohio State. Oh, yeah. If you're drafting a linebacker in the Big Ten, Ohio State, Penn State, that is it. In fact, why draft a linebacker in Jack Campbell, who you know is not going to be worth the second-round pick? Why not take a guy who just requested a trade out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Devin White? From our guy Ari Mayrow, Bucks Pro Bowler linebacker Devin White has requested a trade per, what's her name? Jenna Lane, ESPN. White is 1 year left on his contract and is due for an extension. There's it. 11.3 is what he'll be guaranteed in his fifth year. The Lions can give up that fifth rounder that they just got for Okudah. Say, don't worry about it. We'll give you a fifth. We'll even cover that cost too. Just send them our way. Now you don't have to worry about drafting Jack Campbell with pick 48. But I rest my case. No one's drafting 6'5", 4.65 linebackers anymore. I played against Brian Urlacher for 3 years before he retired. He was stiff as hell out there. And this is 05. This is 2023. What's Jack Campbell going to do against the Miami Dolphins?
Against that track team they've got, probably not a whole lot of anything. And it's funny how you mentioned how we talk about
Greenlaw runs 4.3, by the way. Come on, man.
Yeah, Jack Campbell, I worry about him being able to cover backs out of the backfield. I worry about him as in terms of sideline to sideline. To me, Jack Campbell, and this isn't anything to get excited about, his comp would be a better Alex Anzalone. Something like that.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Would you draft well, they already did, excuse me.
They already have Alex Anzalone. I think he would be an upgrade over Alex Anzalone, but that's not the way that they should be looking in terms of drafting linebackers.
Let me reel it all back in. Let me not be as loud and aggressive because I don't know Jack Campbell. He's never done anything to me. This is just me going off the Detroit Lions. Nowadays, Flannel Sam, you just see the guys that I named. Like all the top 10 linebackers, with the exception of Roquan Smith, they're all second, third round guys, fourth round guys that you're finding and you're plugging. And they're becoming, Pro Bowlers, Hall of Famers. Bobby Wagner's second. He's a Hall of Famer.
He is.
First ballot Hall of Famer. Fred Warner. I've seen Fred Warner run 54 yards. And if you don't know what that is, that's sideline to sideline. 54 yards to make a play on Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is what, 4'3", 4'4", athletic as hell, agile, as big as Quadzilla. I saw Fred Warner go coast to coast and tackling for 1 yard. Like, you got to be able to do those things now. The second round picks nowadays, they're just as good, if not better, than the first-round picks when I was in the league or before that. The second-round picks, you got to be looking for a guy that you're like, this guy's a game changer. This guy is a starter. This guy's a Pro Bowl player. This guy could even be a gold jacket. Gold jackets are now the second round. It's not just the first round anymore. So if you look at it from that standpoint, I'm not going to bring in Jack Campbell as a guy with my 48th overall pick. I'm looking for somebody that can change the defense and change the team. I think he could be a good player, but I ain't picking him with 48.
And speaking of guys
and
that could eventually be a gold jacket guy, how about Devin White, requested a trade? I'm not saying that he's on the same trajectory as, say, a Fred Warner or a Darius Leonard. I think he's a tier below that.
But he's damn good.
He is damn good.
Devin White was the best player in the playoffs 3 years ago when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. He was the best player in the playoff. You can argue they do not win that Super Bowl without Devin White. And this is year 2 for him. That's year 2 for him. This is now year 5, 11.3. Pay that. Give up the 5th rounder. Pay that. You need to have a guy. You saw what Baltimore did. Baltimore didn't pay Lamar Jackson, but they paid Roquan Smith. You see what Edwards just got down there in Chicago. Linebackers, middle linebackers has now become the position that you're starting to pay again because you need these guys. Fred Warner, look at what he does for the 49ers alongside Greenlaw. So I think that this is your move. Devin White is a guy that's proven. Devin White's a guy looking for a new deal, and you guys had a perfect situation. The Lions are perfect for everybody because Devin White had come here and ball. You saw what he did in that Super Bowl run. And
just imagine Devin White on this. Imagine this, and I don't want to get us all too excited. Imagine Devin White on that defense as their linebacker. Imagine that with their revamped secondary. Imagine another year of Aiden Hutchinson, another year of James Houston.
And now you got Will Anderson
Imagine
Jr.
that in conjunction with Will Anderson Jr. And think about this too. I love how everything is complementary when it comes to football. They just traded Jeff Okudah, which means that you saved money on the salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So it gives you more room to acquire a Devin White, and you acquired an extra draft pick that you can then just flip for Devin White. It might take more than a 5th rounder, but still, you can do it. You can do all of these things in Devin White. Just imagine how much higher this defense could be. You would, I wouldn't say completely solidify the linebacking position, but you don't want Alex Anzalone and Malcolm Rodriguez as your best linebackers. You need a dude, and Devin White is one of the better linebackers in the league. He's like a tier below Darius Leonard and Fred Warner and guys like that.
100% you need to do it. And the cool thing about it, too, is if you kind of pay attention to the setup, all this kind of happens. Like, this is one of the things. When we re-signed Alex Anzalone, at first I was like, oh, man. But then I looked at the deal structure. I looked at how much he was given. I looked at the time frame. And I always said, this lets me know they're going to draft a linebacker. They still might pick up a linebacker and partner them side by side. This is coming on the heels of trading Okudah. Now this comes out. Everything is aligning right on purpose. And I think you pick up Devin White, you put him along Anzalone, and you keep it going, man. Like, this is a move. This is a dude. Look at how I can finally turn my head. Like, I finally can watch defense now. Like, literally, last season, I would watch the Lions offense, but when defense came out there, I was like, let me go ahead and put it on, the pass. Let me put it on whatever, the game day. Let me put that on. No, the red zone, excuse me. But now, with this defense, I sit there and analyze this defense and enjoy it.
If the Lions get Devin White, and along with what they've already gotten in free agency, and then they draft Will Anderson, is this a dominant defense next year?
This could be like the best offseason ever.
Best offseason
like,
ever, yeah.
As this is lining up, you look at what they've already picked up, you look at what they've already saved, you look at what now they might potentially add, and then you look at what potentially is said about their projections in the draft. You're talking about the best offseason the Detroit Lions have ever had. Like, and I don't use ever for effect. I'm being honest on that one. This is ever.
Yeah, and then we talk about the defense, which obviously needed to get better. They've already made those upgrades along with a potential Devin White and Will Anderson. And their offense, which already was elite, they added David Montgomery. They added Graham Glasgow. They're going to have presumably a healthy J-Mo, and then a whole draft to figure it out. Maybe Bijan Robinson. Man, I'm getting a little too excited. I'm getting a little too ahead of myself. But
the other thing that's cool too, Flannel, is there's still one more period. Like, see, everybody knows it's the offseason. Once that hits, off season, boom, boom. Then there's a trade deadline. Then there's free agency opens up. And then the NFL draft happens. There's still one more season. That's after the draft, because a lot of teams are waiting to make moves with other players, backup quarterbacks especially, till after the draft. There's a whole nother season that happens for about 8 8 to 10 days. So exciting times in Detroit, exciting times in the NFL.
The NFL, the gift that keeps on giving. We're going to talk a little bit more Lions when we come back. But first, I have to tell you about Alta. At Alta, uptime matters.
It matters.
Alta Equipment has everything you need to get the job done, including if you have that ever-present bog project, which I know all of can't forget about the bog project. You knew all along that the project was bog. But if you got one, Alta Rent has you covered. Call them today at 844-GO-TO-ALTA. That is 844-GO-TO-ALTA.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on Shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Beverly Hills Golf, Woodward Golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
A ton of fun, a ton of sports, and a ton of man meat. Welcome to the Woodward Heavyweights, live daily 5 to 7 p.m. on Woodward Sports.
Cruising on into hour 2 of Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. I am Flannel Sam, filling in for Ryan Ermanni. We got Braylon Edwards, we got JV Smooth, and we've got Fletch in the technical director booth. You guys are doing a great job, as always. So when the Jeff Okudah news broke of him being traded, one of his teammates tweeted something that I thought was very, very interesting. And if you guys haven't seen it already, it is Jameson Williams. He tweets, "I need that Uno back, please." As we all know, Jameson Williams, he wants the number 1. Jeff Okudah had it, but now he is gone. And I made a joke earlier on Big D Energy, which I felt was maybe a little bit out of pocket, but it's fair because it's like a layup. Does Uno stand for the amount of catches Jameson Williams had last year? Because he literally only had 1. But it was a touchdown. It was a damn good play. But for the record, I believe that Jameson Williams will be great for the Detroit Lions. And it got me to thinking, for year 2, his rookie season, considering that last year it was very injury ravaged. He only played 5 or 6 games. What are your expectations for Jameson Williams this year?
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I had to take a break and cool off because the Jack Campbell conversation and Devin White and think about how good they could be if they made the move. Got me a little excited. I got a little hot flash. I had to cool off. I expect him to take a big leap. I think one of the big things is the Lions fan base, they keep looking at at Jameson Williams as an injured guy, ease back into the structure, ease into the fold, trying to figure things out. He's fragile. We don't want to get him hurt. Brad and Dan, when they talk about him, it's also kind of like that. We'll see what happens. And stop all that, man. Look, he had an ACL. He didn't have a fully reconstructed knee. It wasn't ACL, MCL, PCL, meniscus. It was ACL, which means he's already good. He's already healed. He's well. I saw him coming back from California, LA. We were on the same plane. He didn't have on a game radio. A game radio is a device that you put a sleeve on and you connect it to a pump. It ices your knee for you. It keeps the inflammation down. He didn't have one of those. He didn't have on a knee sleeve that was, keeping down the swelling. He was good. He didn't have any of that. You saw what he did against Georgia in the national championship game. Expect that's what you're going to see from Jameson Williams this season moving forward. He's got Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator. It's perfect time. And this is Ben Johnson's coming out here. You got to also think about it like this. Ben Johnson's trying to do what? He's trying to be a head coach.
He is.
He's trying to get paid. And the way to do that is to have another successful year on offense. Well, the way success looks like nowadays in the NFL, it's Josh McVay. It's Kyle Shanahan. It's what Zach Taylor is doing down there in Cincinnati. He's going to want to get his players off so that he can have a good season so he looks good. And what does that look like? That looks like Jameson Williams, I'd say 85 to 95 catches, I think 1,200 to 1,400 yards, and I think 9 to 13 touchdowns. That's what I think he looks like. But you got to think about this year. Look at what first-round wide receivers from the SEC, look at what they're doing nowadays. Like, this isn't something I'm just throwing out there, like, or Big Ten. Look at Garrett Wilson last year. He had 1,100 with no quarterback. You know, look at Chris Olave. Chris Olave had 1,100 with no quarterback. Look at Justin Jefferson his first year with Kirk Cousins. Look at Jamar Chase. Like, look at Jalen Waddle. Look at Devontae Smith in the playoffs. These guys can play in the SEC. This ain't childhood football no more. So I expect him to be a dog this year to the tune of that.
And to go even further, look at Drake London with Marcus Mariota as his quarterback. He had about 900 yards. Look at Christian Watson once him and Aaron Rodgers finally figured it out. He was damn good for the last part of the year.
He scored in the last 8 games.
Yes, and look at Jahan Dotson. He had some injuries, but he was good when he played too.
That's Maz's homeboy.
So yeah, Jameson Williams, I think he's almost become a little. There's a couple camps when it comes to Jameson Williams, because I do think people forget how great he really was at Alabama. Yeah. He was the best receiver in college football. He was the biggest game breaker that I'd ever seen at the collegiate level, and I'm not even kidding. Yeah, he was absolutely dominant.
I talked to him, Flannel.
He would have been the first receiver off the board if it wasn't for the ACL.
Yeah.
But last year, I also think that he's gotten a little bit too much of a pass. I understand that they did bring him along slowly, but he did play in, I believe, 6 games. The Carolina game, I don't know if that really counts. It was a hard surface.
Nah.
But he only had 1 catch, and he did touch the ball another time on an end around. They didn't really use him properly. So for me, Jameson Williams, I think his ceiling. I'm not saying he's going to hit it this year, but I'm saying his ceiling, and hell, he might hit it this year.
He should.
Is 2022 Jalen Waddle. Not Tyreek Hill, but Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle
1,300.
He had about 1,350 yards, 76 catches, led the entire NFL in yards per catch, 8 touchdowns. I think he's that type of player. I think he's that type of player that can take a slant and take it to the house. We saw it at Alabama. He runs the entire route tree. I think the Lions kind of turned him into someone who just ran go routes, which I think was a little bit of malfeasance.
So we're basically saying the same thing. The only difference is I think I have him scoring more touchdowns a year, because I've got about 9 more catches. You know, we're right in the middle in terms of yards. For touchdowns, I said 9 and 13. You say 7. So that's the only difference. So we're saying about the same thing.
Yeah, we're saying about the same thing. I have him having a little bit more of a yards per catch type season. You have him, I think, more like possession.
Breakout.
I mean, not like being a possession receiver, but get more of those like 3rd and 8s, 10-yard catches.
'Cause at the end of the day, like, Jalen Waddle's like that yards per catch, that Tyreek Hill yards per catch, that Deshaun Jackson yards per catch. Guys ain't doing that. Like, guys are doing more along the lines of Justin Jefferson. You look at what Justin Jefferson had. Like, 1,800 yards, but he's averaging 15.4 catch. Jamar Chase, 15.4 catch. You know, Amari Cooper's at 16.1. Tyreek Hill, like, even with he's out there too. But the majority of guys right now are right around that 14.5 to 16 in terms of yards per catch, because they're catching a ton of passes and they're getting somewhere between 1,500.
So I think we agree that Jameson Williams is primed for a breakout season.
Let me ask you this, though. You say we're giving him too much of a pass. The Lions start off 1-6. If I'm rehabbing a rookie player who just tore his ACL in the national championship game, and my team start off as bad, and I get nervous, Dan Campbell saw that his team wasn't that good in training camp. I guarantee you, the Indianapolis scrimmage, what they saw from their players, they were like, I don't think we're going to take the jump early that we want. I think it's going to happen later. So if you're looking at that, why am I going to have Jameson Williams play earlier and we're a bad team? Why get him hurt in a bad situation? And I think that's what they were kind of trying to fill through, is risking him hurt for a bad team. Oh, now we're a decent team. We're trying to get him, but still not. I think you can blame some of that on the Detroit Lions being a bad team early in the season in terms of how much he actually played.
And that's fair. And I'm not really talking about him sitting out the early part of the season. I'm talking more about the fact that once he played, you could obviously tell that they were bringing him along very, very slowly. He wasn't really as big of a part of their game plan as I thought he was going to be. And honestly, they didn't really need him to be as big of a part because their offense already looked so good. But Jameson Williams could add, I mean, it could go even to another stratosphere if he pans out the way that we both think he will. My thing is that he did basically nothing last season. And he did play 5 or 6 games. But I think he can make up for that, more than make up for it with another dominant season.
True, but he played 5 games. But how many of those players were passing plays? How many of those were running plays just to get him used to hearing the play call, getting out of the huddle, getting in and out of the huddle, getting lined up, talking with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it's talking to Jared Goff. A lot of those weren't even passing plays.
That's fair.
They were running plays. They were even talking about one time sending him down on punt.
Oh my God!
I was like,
it's the worst idea ever.
No, don't do it. I remember Kellen Winslow got drafted the year before I got to Cleveland. Kellen Winslow Jr. got drafted. He injured his ankle, which kept him out for the season in preseason on special teams. No first rounders doing special teams unless they're punt returners or kick returners. That's it.
Absolutely not. And let me pivot really quick to a first-round draft pick that actually played and had a damn good year. This is Aiden Hutchinson. When you look at last season, the rookie pressure leader, Aiden Hutchinson, obviously, according to that list, and you saw it, led all of NFL rookies in quarterback pressures. He also led all NFL rookies in sacks. And you look at some of the names you see on this list. Look at 2019 Nick Bosa, 80. And then you look at 2021 Micah Parsons. Aiden Hutchinson is not quite on par with those guys, but the Nick Bosa one really stood out to me.
Is this 80? I thought that was Jerry Rice's number. Jesus Christ.
Well, that's the thing, because Nick Bosa, I don't believe he had double-digit sacks his rookie season.
He did not.
But
his brother did.
Yeah.
Joey had 11.5, I want to say, in 12 games.
But people could see how dominant Nick Bosa was basically from the get-up, and I believe right now he's obviously solidified his claim as the best defensive player on the planet. And you can argue that Micah Parsons, as far as pass rushers go, is number 2. We're hoping that Aiden Hutchinson can get to that level, but last year's edge rusher class, at least at the top, was pretty loaded. I mean, Trayvon Walker, Kayvon Thibodeau, George Karlaftis. I don't know if I'm missing anybody, but that's amazing.
No, I think you're good.
I think I got it. But Aiden Hutchinson was better than all of them, and he had more sacks than Kayvon Thibodeau and Trayvon Walker combined. Here's a rookie season.
Here's the one thing that I question. And Aiden had a damn fine season last year. Hell, he tied the interception record for a defensive lineman, not rookie, of all time.
3.
So he definitely had a damn good season last year. The only thing I question is when he went on his run, like when Aiden started balling out, because Aiden really got on that run, like he was kind of like him and Kirby and James, kind of like the catalyst in that 10-game period. Like they really took off, and I think so they went, the defense went. But there were a lot of just bad games in there. Like they're bad teams, bad offensive line, bad quarterbacks, games where he disappeared. So I'm just wondering going into the season, like what it's going to look like playing against top-tier talent. Like this year, there's some different teams on that schedule. We'll be playing against the AFC West. That'll be interesting to see how you look against Rashawn Slater. How you look against the Chiefs. How you look against the Raiders and such. So it'll be interesting this year to see how you look against this schedule versus last year. Because you look at the end of the season, when teams know they're not in the playoffs, when teams know that it's over for them, when teams know that they're getting ready for the offseason, which is a lot of those teams in the last 10 games they played, teams aren't doing the same thing. Teams aren't coming as hard. Guys aren't trying to block you every play. Guys aren't trying to put you in the dirt. So I really want to see how he starts the year this year versus how he finished last year.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. He definitely had some rookie growing pains that he had to get through. I think a lot of us questioned whether
he got through it though.
He did. Oh, he damn sure got through it.
Because he got injured in that Commanders game. You can tell because he wasn't the same player for about 2 days. Kind of playing with one arm, like 2 games, 2-3 games. Once he got healed, he played better too. So I do want to give him that little bit. He was injured for about 2 games, 2-3 games.
Yeah, but before we move off of this, I just want to like give the audience really a look at the company that he has kept. You've got, in terms of rookies who led their seasons in pressures, you've got Micah Parsons.
There's 4 Hall of Famers on this list already.
Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa. You've got Bradley Chubb, damn good player. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, certainly.
That's
Hall
one
of
of the Hall of Famers.
Hall of Famer. I'd say that Nick Bosa will be a Hall of Famer. Micah
His brother,
Parsons,
and
Joey.
Micah.
Yeah, and Leonard Williams.
Joey got to stay out. Joey is a wild card. Joey has to stay out of trouble, and Joey has to stay healthy. Because lately, Joey's been in the media a lot. Like, Joey's like getting into fights and getting into arguments and spats. Like, Joey, you and your brother, you're mutants. Like, you're too big to be getting into fights with regular people. Trust me, I did that. It doesn't work. Like, he's too big to be getting into fights with regular people. So Joey needs to stay healthy and stay out of trouble. But other than that, he's making the Hall of Fame.
I would agree with that. Although Nick, in terms of the Bosa brothers, has passed him, has lapped him at this point, which is amazing.
I think because Nick's big, Nick's taller. Like Joey's still taller, right? No,
Yeah, he's tall.
Joey's he's big head and everything, but I think Joey's naturally more gifted than Nick. I think Joey came out the womb like to sack quarterbacks. I think Nick had to work at it, and I think Nick kept working at it. When you watch Nick, I see a guy that's always working, that's more humble with it. With Joey, I see a guy that's like, he was damn good from jump, and I see him kind of like revert in some old ways. I think Nick's the better brother. I agree with you, but I think Joey was naturally better. Nick worked harder.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That is absolutely fair. And coming up next, you've got some wide receiver numbers that
a lot of Big Ten guys on there. Wait a minute, not to cut you off.
No, you're good, bro.
Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten. I see the Big Ten out here.
And then Joe, Big Ten. Yeah. Oh my God, that's
a lot of Big Ten on there, brother.
That is a lot of Big Ten. But we're going to talk next about a subject that you know very, very well, and that's wide receivers. You've got some numbers that I actually don't know them as of right now. I'm going to be seeing them for the first time and react myself in real time. But first, I got to tell you where I get my haircut. I'm actually going there right after the show today. I know they're going to do a great job for me, and that is Lady Jane's. How would you like to win not one, but 2 vehicles of your choice? One for you and one for your wife, your girlfriend, or your best bud. Get to Lady Jane's today for an award-winning haircut and automatically enter for your chance to win, courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Wicked awesome.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jason Olafson, DC, the founder of the Custom Health Centers, and we've helped thousands of people learn how easy it is to lose weight and keep it off with our customized weight loss and body contouring programs.
With Custom Health, you don't feel hungry, you eat well. My name is Simeon Timbuk, and I've lost 71 pounds on the program.
Call us at 844-789-THIN or visit CustomHealthCenters.com for a free consultation and get started for as little as $5 a day.
3 NBA championships. Detroit fans were there. 11 Stanley Cups. Detroit fans were there. 4 World Series wins. Detroit fans were there. And that one Lions playoff win in 1991. Yeah, Detroit fans were there. Woodward Sports, where the fans are.
Welcome back to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. I'm Flannel Sam. We fill in for Ryan Ermanni. We got Braylon Edwards to my right, JV Smooth in the sound booth. My bad, I almost said TV. Fletch is in the technical director's booth, and now we are going to discuss something for which Braylon has lots of knowledge.
I gotta go grab one of my sheets of paper, man. Keep everybody entertained.
Absolutely. We've got some. Braylon Edwards has some numbers regarding NFL wide receivers, specifically how a guy like Odell Beckham stacks up with some of the all-time great wide receivers. And it's great because it's combining something that Braylon knows very well, and that's wide receivers. And me, I consider myself a bit of a historian of the game.
Brother.
I know a lot. I mean, like I said, I can talk football with just about anybody, including a guy like Maz, not to sort of pat myself on the back. It's just I'm a historian of the game, and Braylon Edwards was a wide receiver and also a historian of the game. So give me some numbers, Braylon.
You know, I was having some fun, and before you put him up, Fletch, we were talking about Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham got $15 million, possibly $18 million, signed with the Baltimore Ravens this coming year. See if that brings Lamar Jackson back. But we're talking about his first 3-year run, and you were talking about it, and I remember how good it was. I just want to give people context of how good his run was. I want to compare it against some other Hall of Fame / young great wide receivers. So I said, here's what we'll do. We'll add a Detroit guy on there, and we'll add some of the best wide receivers ever. See how it stacks up. Flannel, Sam, tell me what you think about this. Here we go. These are by the numbers in terms of first 3 years in the NFL. Calvin Johnson, I had to get a Detroit guy on here. He's a Hall of Famer. First ballot, Megatron, was damn good at wide receiver. He was nasty. And to be honest, should have threw him the ball more in the red zone because how he only has 82 touchdowns is beyond me. But Calvin Johnson, 3 years, 3,071 yards, 21 touchdowns, 193 catches. That's a damn good 3-year period. Justin Jefferson at 4. The reason why is Justin Jefferson 4? And he's got 48, 25, 25, 311. This is why. He only has 25 touchdowns. Like, he only has 25 touchdowns. When you look at 3, 2, 1, you'll notice touchdowns. So, yes, he has the 48 to 25. He also has an extra game on the other individuals, so that's 3 extra games. So, damn good first 3 years, 48, 25. That's sick. 25 touchdowns and 311 catches off the charts. At 3, Randy Moss. Now, how did Randy get bumped by OBJ and Jerry Rice? Here's why. I look at OBJ. Now, I adjusted for OBJ because he missed the first 4 games his rookie year. So I adjusted for his averages, and it comes up to 453, or 445.58, which is about 400 more than Randy Moss. He's just 4 touchdowns shy of Randy Moss, and he's 100 catches above Randy Moss. So I figure 100 catches more, 400 yards more, and only 4 touchdowns less. I got to go Randy at 3, OBJ at 2. Is that fair?
We forget too that Odell Beckham was getting 90 catches a year his first 3 seasons too. Yeah,
he averaged 100. I think it was 108 yards a game as a
absurd.
Like, that is ridiculous. So I put OBJ second, but number 1 goes back to what I said yesterday and what I always say. He's the greatest NFL player of all time, and it's hard to argue with numbers. Jerry Rice, okay, in 3 years, this is adjusted too, because Jerry missed 4 games. Well, there was a shortened season in 1980, 1985, 1986, so he only played 12 games. In those 12 games, wait for it, he had 22 touchdowns.
That sounds made up.
In 12 games.
That sounds made up.
22 touchdowns. In 12 games, 22. So I added for inflation. He's averaging 1.8 touchdown a game, Flannel Sam. So you add inflation, you have 4 more games. Well, that's 7 more touchdowns. So once I looked at the inflation, it ended up being 47 touchdowns, 39, 35, and 253. So he has to be 1, because I'll sacrifice 600 yards for 8 more touchdowns. You can have him 600 yards. Give me the 8 more touchdowns, and then he's 7 yards. So Jerry Rice, first 3 years, number 1. OBJ, now you see why he was so good. Now you see why Flannel Sam and I were talking about him. OBJ, number 2. Randy had 17 touchdowns as a rookie, though. Like, that is insane. And then Justin Jefferson, what he's done, and then Calvin. The other thing that sucks is Jamar Chase got hurt last year.
Yeah.
Like, if Jamar Chase doesn't get hurt, I can add him to the list and kind of see where he was, because I think he was 1,400 as a rookie, 9 touchdowns. Last year he was 1,076, and he missed 5 games. So Jamar Chase will be hurt too. So this gives you in the list an idea of how good OBJ was. It also shows Calvin. Now, for those of you out there that don't like the Calvin slander, if I were to put Calvin's best 3-year window up there, it was pretty nasty.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty nasty. That would have been that 2011, 12, 13. 11, 12, 13, Calvin was sick. It was 1,600, 1,900, and 1,495.
It was as good of a 3-year stretch as any wide receiver has ever had.
It probably puts him around top 3, top 4, because AB's number 1.
Well, Antonio Brown for like 4 or 5 years was just obscene.
It's number 1. But the thing about Calvin, ladies and gentlemen, they never used him a lot in the red zone. Like, I know you guys, I've seen 1 million touchdowns. Go back and really look at the stats. In that period, this is the thing that bothers me to this day, and I know Calvin. 1,964 yards, 128 touchdowns, 128 yards a game. He had 5 touchdowns.
I remember that.
He had 5 touchdowns. It's almost like the Keyshawn Johnson year, where Keyshawn had like 1,300. He had 111 catches, 0 touchdowns. Why couldn't they get Calvin Johnson the damn ball in the red zone? He's 6'5". His name's Megatron.
I don't understand. That's another one of those mind-boggling stats. He had 5 during the year where he had over 1,900.
He had 128 catches.
That's unbelievable.
What's 128 divided by 5? Jesus Christ.
It's absolutely absurd. But hey, it's still, that's still one of the best years any wide receiver has ever had.
Yard-wise, it's the best.
Yes. And when I look at this list, the thing that really stands out to me is you got Jerry Rice, best receiver ever. You say best football player ever. He has over 22,000 receiving yards. I think the next closest has 17,000. And then
he's got more. He's more receiving yards than anybody has rushing yards. He's got more touchdowns than anybody. He has an NFL MVP. He's got Super Bowl MVP. He's got 5 rings. He ain't beating that.
And then you got Randy Moss who's number 3.
He's my favorite, but he ain't the best.
But he might be second best.
He is.
I would say second best. And then you've got Odell Beckham Jr. And it's. When I look at that list, it almost makes me feel
Randy miss.
It almost makes me feel a little bit sad for Odell Beckham Jr. because I thought that he was gonna. If you would have told me after those first 3 seasons, I would have been like absolute first ballot Hall of Famer. But he probably won't be in. But a lot of that isn't his fault. His 4th season, he broke his ankle, and then he had a torn ACL, I think, with the Browns.
Yeah.
And then he had one in the Super Bowl and missed all of last season. So injuries have kind of. I wouldn't say ravaged his career. We still see what he did before.
They've derailed
his career.
Peep this, ladies and gentlemen. That's 39 touchdowns in terms of that's the adjusted numbers. But luckily, we live in an era now where everything is adjusted, so you guys are used to that. 39 touchdowns, that's the adjusted numbers. Odell Beckham right now, after 9 seasons in the NFL, he's got 54. 3 years, 39. 8 years, 54. What could have been?
As far as like a per game basis, his first 3 seasons, right out of the gate. And I said yesterday, at the time, I'm not even just saying this, he was my favorite football player.
Yeah, he was must see TV. I mean, you watch him, the kid. Like once he snagged the catch with the 2 fingers, man, it was all she wrote. He was everywhere. And the thing about it is, in that 3-year period, he answered every bell. Like he answered every bell with the exception of 2. The game against Josh Norman and the Carolina Panthers, where they were going back and forth all week, and then that was when I think the Panthers were still undefeated. They had a chance to beat them. Remember he dropped the post? And the Josh Norman, that one. And the other bell was Maz's worst story is obviously the New York boat trip in Miami, and then they go get beat by the Dallas Cowboys, or the Green Bay Packers, excuse me.
Just a quick side note, I hated Josh Norman because I loved Odell Beckham so much, but Josh Norman obviously got in his head for that game.
They had, you know what's funny about their battles is they probably finished even, because Odell crushed him a couple times, even in Carolina, even when he was with the now Commanders, the Redskins, when he killed him on that slant in the end zone and like the slant out and he stopped. Man, they've had some battles. I think Odell got him though.
I would say that for sure. Coming up next, we're going to talk about something in which I defend even more passionately than just about anything in the world, and that is my man Patrick Mahomes. There's a certain former NFL quarterback that just made some reckless and very not biased at all comments. We're going to talk about them. I'm going to put those to bed. But first, we got to talk about Chili Peppers Tanning, where I should go because oh my God, I'm a ghost. Chili Peppers Tanning is where you'll find the cleanest salons in the D with spotless, sanitized rooms and trained and certified tanning professionals. Join the Pepper Club for all the best deals. They'll beat all competitors by $5. Don't forget to pick up Australian Gold, Designer Skin, Caltan, and Swedish Beauty Lotions. ChiliPeppersTanning.com. The hottest bulbs, Fletch. The hottest deals. The darkest tans. Your vitamin D headquarters. 27 locations and more coming. It's Chili Peppers Tanning.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit, but we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side.
Lemieux and McCarty, who've had a good knockdown drag up. There they go, right on the whistle. Baby, talking to one another.
Woodward Sports.
Welcome back to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. I'm Flannel Sam filling in for Ryan Ermanni. We got Braylon Edwards to my right. We've got JV Smooth in the sound booth and Fletch on the 1s and 2s. So this is something that I became kind of used to but very annoyed by as the season was coming down to the stretch into the playoffs. It seems to me that people are trying to anoint Joe Burrow before he's really ready. We all agree that I would even admit he's the second best quarterback in the NFL, next to one, Patrick Mahomes, who is quickly becoming my favorite athlete ever. But someone who disagrees with me is a former Cincinnati Bengal quarterback himself, and that is Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer said that Joe Burrow is actually the best quarterback in the NFL. He says he's more consistent, yada, yada, yada. That just...
Oh, man, yada, yada.
I think Joe is the best quarterback in the league.
Somebody ain't trying to hear it.
I know Patrick Mahomes is phenomenal, but I just think Joe's more consistent, whatever the hell that means.
Consistent.
He's more accountable to run the system and the play that's called and not feel like, well, he didn't win last time and get open for me, so I'm going to do it with my feet and let them... Before you know it, you're sacked for a 4-yard loss because you tried to make 2 of the 3 guys miss. But Let me address this, because I know this often gets talked about as, Patrick Mahomes sometimes plays backyard football. You know what that backyard football has gotten him?
Before we go back and forth,
What's up?
Before we go back and forth, we got to start off with Carson Palmer's his rhetoric and what was said. Carson Palmer is a hater. Let's start there. Carson Palmer's a hater. We know he played for the Bengals. He's not even a hater because he played for the Bengals, because remember, he retired on the Bengals because he hated Cincinnati so much. Yeah. So this isn't loyalty to Cincinnati. This is loyalty to pocket passing quarterbacks. Like, that's what I look at it as. Carson Palmer, stiff ass, could not get out the pocket. He can't move like that. Would have won a quarterback if Van Ezel didn't do that dirty move in 2005. They would have went to the Super Bowl, but the Steelers ended up going to the Super Bowl. But anyway, enough about that. He's just representing for stiff quarterbacks, because when you watch Patrick Mahomes and you know you're like an Andrew Waltz or you're a Joe Flacco type quarterback, you get a little jealous. I would get jealous too if I saw that. So that's definitely jealousy first and foremost.
I mean, I would get jealous too, because Patrick Mahomes is the most talented quarterback we've ever seen. So all that stuff that Carson Palmer was talking, in Patrick Mahomes' first 5 seasons, he has 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 regular season MVPs, including his last one in which Tyreek Hill wasn't even on the team, something that people were talking about. Like, maybe he's going to miss him. Obviously, he didn't. He won another Super Bowl. In terms of postseason passer rating, Patrick Mahomes on a per-game basis is the best postseason quarterback of all time. He is first all-time in postseason passer rating. Joe Burrow is 14th. Patrick Mahomes has a touchdown-to-interception ratio in the playoffs of 35-7 in 14 games. Joe Burrow has thrown exactly 9 touchdown passes in 7 postseason games, but yet he's supposed to be the coolest cat and kitten in the room. Everyone calls him Joe Cool for God knows what reason, because a lot of those playoff wins...
man, don't be hating over there, man. You supposed to just tell me why Mahomes is bad. Don't be hating.
Joe Burrow is the second-best quarterback in the NFL.
Okay.
He just ain't one, and I say ain't for effect.
Ooh.
Remember last year's playoff game? It was tied 17-17 against the Lamar Jackson-less Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals were at home. Yep. Tyler Huntley was about to lead that team to a go-ahead touchdown.
What happened?
He fumbles the football. He tries to Superman into the end zone. Sam Hubbard goes 99 yards. But yet Joe Burrow's Joe Cool, right?
Who won?
Cincinnati won that game.
Who won?
Cincinnati.
Okay,
it was Cincinnati, but the game-winning play was a 99-yard touchdown fumble return. Right. So Joe Burrow led the team to a grand total of 17 points. Let's talk.
So that's how you're gonna do me? Okay, I see. I'm just setting up to see how you're doing, because I definitely saw the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and this unstoppable situation and this beautiful arm in his leg. I definitely saw them go to overtime to beat the Texans.
That's true.
I definitely saw them go to overtime to beat the Texans.
That was the regular season.
I'm just saying. We can play that game now.
I understand that.
We can play that game.
But
how many wins does Patrick Mahomes have against Joe Burrow?
1.
How many wins does Joe Burrow have against Patrick Mahomes?
3.
Oh, wait a minute. Is one of those in the AFC Championship? Is one of those in that same year at the end of the season, and then you did it again?
It's funny, though, you mentioned, I get that. This past AFC Championship game when Patrick Mahomes actually beat Joe Burrow, we talk about, a lot of people blame the refs as the reason why.
I don't blame the refs. They lost. Patrick Mahomes did his thing on one leg.
I'm not talking about you. I had knockdown dragouts with Maz. I had him with the man who's in this room, actually, Lucas Klotz. Because remember, Joe Burrow threw 2 picks in that game.
He did.
When the score was tied 20-20, Joe Burrow had 2 chances to go down and get the go-ahead score. Interception, punt.
Okay, so you want to play that? Who won the coin toss?
I think he disagrees with just about everything that I'm going to say. I know he's a Joe Burrow slappy.
Right.
But I got numbers, man. What say you, Lucas?
I can't deny all the records that you were rattling off there with Mahomes and his career wins. You cannot deny that. And I'm willing to give Patrick Mahomes the crown for now.
All right.
But I think there will come a day when Joe Burrow wins a Super Bowl. I think in the next 2 to 3 years. I'm not going to just lay the house on it this year. But there will be a day when Joe Burrow wins a Super Bowl. And I think there will be a day when Joe Burrow wins 2 Super Bowls. And possibly 3. And then when we take that apart and you look at Joe Burrow, his rookie year, came into a dumpster fire.
I didn't even mention that part. That was on my list.
Tore his ACL. Caught it. And then continue to have a bad offensive line, because his offensive line did step up this year, but they were still down compared to what their expectations were. Like, he still was not sitting that pocket safe. So to have a torn ACL and still do the things that he did in the AFC nonetheless, especially during that time frame, the potential to be better than Patrick Mahomes is definitely there. I think Carson Palmer's comments were completely out of line. Like, I agree with you to the fact of I don't understand what consistency has to do, because Patrick Mahomes consistently, you could say, has been the best quarterback over the last 4 or 5 years. So I don't have too much to argue about with you about the Mahomes and Burrow thing. I think if Burrow would have beat Mahomes this year, I think in my eyes, just because of the head-to-head competition, you have to give it to Burrow, but he didn't.
4-11, dumpster fire, to 10-7, AFC champion.
No time sitting either. He didn't sit behind Alex Smith.
He also didn't start his career off with Jamar Chase. Like, somebody started their career off with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Like, tight end last year was non-existent for them. Uzama the year before that was damn good. But last year, tight was non-existent. If we're being fun, we're just having fun with you guys. Like, it's not close. It's Patrick Mahomes. The only thing that I have on that, though, Lucas, is this. Right now, Patrick Mahomes is and I think this year more than ever, he finally put on display. Before he was sneaky good at running the football, at move, like being a mobile quarterback. He was sneaky beforehand. You really didn't call him a mobile quarterback, but he was. I think last year he showed you that he's a mobile quarterback as well as a guy that's elite with passing ball. Those legs, because he's not that fast, those legs are going to get slower on him a lot faster than they'll get slower on a Lamar Jackson. His leg, he's going to get stuck in the mud soon. He won't be able to scramble as much anymore. It'll be interesting to see what type of quarterback Patrick Mahomes becomes in the 2025 season. Like 2025, I want to see, because Joe Burrow, he's going to be this quarterback for the next 12, 13 years. Like, nothing in his game is going to change. It's kind of like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was the same quarterback for like 16 years. Like, just kind of mobile, but was damn good. That's going to be Joe Burrow, and I think this will be a better comparison 2026.
Well, let me just say something about what you had to say, Lucas, because we talk about.
He's mad.
I'm actually not mad.
I'm joking.
My thing about the whole Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes thing is, can we wait until he actually does do the things that you said that he can do?
No, because we don't wait. Victor Wembanyama is about to get compared to LeBron season 1. But we don't wait.
But
this is what we do.
The thing is we've been able to compare them on a game-by-game basis. We've seen these guys go head-to-head, and we've seen what has happened the majority of the time. Joe Burrow has won the majority of the time. So knowing that I have watched this man beat Patrick Mahomes on numerous occasions, am I willing to say personally that if it takes a Super Bowl win for this to happen and me be like, I told you so, I'm willing just to be like, I told you so. I'm willing to be on that train, because Joe Burrow, yes, he doesn't have the athleticism as Patrick Mahomes, like Braylon was saying, but I think we saw exactly this year what can happen to Patrick Mahomes if he is mobile all year. He's going to get hurt just like every other NFL quarterback who is mobile. He's going to take shots, and Joe Burrow, I think his rookie year, kind of had that scare. He didn't go through a mobility scare, but this is what's going to happen. I can tear my ACL in the NFL. He learned right then, I have to keep my body safe. I have to do this game intellectually. I have to manipulate the game. And I think just like Braylon said, like Aaron Rodgers does, he's going to find little ways. Aaron Rodgers getting guys to jump off sides. What does he do better than anybody? I think those are the things that Joe Burrow will be able to pick up on and make elite compared to the other guys in this league.
Here's one answer to that question. You said in a minute to compare. Tom Brady played for 22 years, and we be comparing Patrick Mahomes to him all the time. That's 17 years apart, and we compare them all the time. Maybe we compare them because they have Super Bowls. Patrick now has 2, so maybe that's why. But it's 17 years apart. There's only 2 years apart between Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. Plus, they've played a lot. So to where he's saying, I'm not even comparing the championships. Patrick, it's not a real guard. But the head-to-head, that's something serious, because if that's something that continues, like, yeah, he won the big one last time, and then he was able to win the Super Bowl. But what is the conversation, the what-if factor? What if Burrow would have beat Mahomes?
Then we would have maybe had to have the conversation. I wouldn't have said that Burrow was better yet. If he would have won that game and then went on to win Super Bowl MVP, then maybe we can have that conversation. But the fact of the matter is he didn't. And Lucas, one of the reasons why Joe Burrow doesn't have a Super Bowl is because he
came right back
had five empty possessions in the Super Bowl that he was in. After throwing that touchdown pass, which was obvious OPI to Jamar Chase, then leading to a field goal. The last 5 drives, punt, turnover on downs.
Whose fault is that? You got Von Miller and Aaron Donald coming at you.
That's true. And the other thing that he does is, he's going out, but he might be not getting points, but he's manipulating the clock and taking it out.
Oh, Jesus.
But that's a true effect when you talk about when you're playing with the lead. You're not, instead of taking a check down, you might just be taking a 1-yard loss, but it's burning that clock, so it's helping your team out. And those are things that Joe Burrow is doing at a young age. And not only that, he's having games where he does that and has amazing offensive performances. So when he does get into his prime, which he is not yet, I think it's going to take another year or two. That's when we're really going to see everything come together. And that's when I think the potential to be better than Patrick Mahomes will be on full scale.
That's fine with all that manipulating the clock, and I think a lot of that is somewhat nonsense.
But it's not like he's doing nothing.
In the last 5 drives, he did nothing. Did they hold that lead or did they not? They most certainly did not.
They did not, but I'm saying you can't just act like it's all on him. He's doing his part. Like, he's trying to do what he can.
And T. Higgins had to throw his first touchdown pass in that game, just for the record.
Yeah, but don't tell me in one breath that, oh, my God, what he's done despite not having an offensive line is amazing that he would get the Super Bowl. And then in the next breath, penalize him for it. Like, in one breath, it's like, oh, my God, he got to the Super Bowl with that offensive line. They were so bad. They were so terrible. He led the league in getting sacked. He led the league in getting sacked in the playoffs. How he got there, we don't know. And then by the same measure, it's like he had 4 empty possessions. Like, he couldn't get rid of the ball. No stuff he couldn't get rid of the ball. His offensive line sucked. He's going against Aaron Donald, Floyd, and Von Miller. You can't play both sides of that.
Jalen Ramsey in the back.
He gets more passes than he actually throws. And for the record, being second to Patrick Mahomes is nothing to be ashamed of. If Joe Burrow does all the things that you say that you say he could do, then maybe we can have this conversation. I just think it's too early. They're at different stages of their career.
Right.
Joe Burrow's great. Patrick Mahomes is on the GOAT trajectory. Joe Burrow is not yet.
The one thing I would say, and this is actually a fair assessment, and then we can go on. I'll concede. But Andy Reid set that Kansas City Chiefs up team in the 4 years prior to Patrick Mahomes. They were already on the trajectory. All they needed was him, and then he took it to the next level. Let's not act like it was a situation where Zach Taylor had a 4-year plan set up, and then here comes Patrick Mahomes in year 5. Here comes Joe Burrow in year 5 in a row. Joe Burrow did that by himself. Well, with some offense too. But
Andy Reid been to the Super Bowl before that, so he knew how to get the team there.
Andy Reid is all-time great, but don't act like there wasn't Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins. The offensive line 100%. Was an issue. You're right. But it was better last year. Lucas, thanks for joining us, man.
Appreciate you guys.
It's always a pleasure to talk. I know that we
didn't always talk Joe Burrow anytime.
Hopefully, I don't have to do that too much more often on this show. But I love Joe Burrow, for the record. Second best quarterback in the league. I know people are coming at me in the chat. Second best quarterback in the league, but Patrick Mahomes is on the GOAT trajectory. I'm just saying Joe Burrow ain't there yet. I say ain't for effect, but I know there's probably a lot of people that want me to stay out of this chair right now. And we're going to speak to stay out, Guardian Alarm. It's a new year. Let Guardian Alarm offer you customized solutions from real experts. Our professional technicians take the time to recommend security and automation solutions specific to your needs. 24/7 professional monitoring. Call us anytime, day or night, and know that a Guardian team member will stay on the phone as long as needed. Technology backed by people. Your safety and security deserves technology that's been proven to work and people who have been proven to care. Call them at 1-800-STAY-OUT. That's 1-800-STAY-OUT. Guardian Alarm.
Can't get enough Woodward Sports content? Head over to woodwardsports.com right now for up-to-date sports articles and great entertainment news. We have the best writers, bloggers, and coverage all at your fingertips. Head to woodwardsports.com right now to experience all Woodward Sports has to offer.
The Sports Marketing Agency would not be who we are without great community partners like Higuera Health and Carol Zuniga.
It's an awesome opportunity to partner with your organization. Higuera Health is a comprehensive behavioral health organization. We serve children through older adults with mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities across Western Wayne counties, and really excited to now be in downriver communities as well. Give us a call at 734-458-4601.
We aren't quite sure if they consume more beer or sports. Either way, the heavyweights are here. Live on Woodward Sports, daily 5 to 7 p.m.
Seafood Fest is back at Big Boy. Catch it while you can until Monday, April 17th. Some favorites like shrimp Alfredo, shrimp stir fry, and the new fish sandwich. Go to your local Big Boy today. Don't forget the all-you-can-eat fish fry buffet this Friday night. Welcome back to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. Man, there's nothing I love more in the world than just propping up Patrick Mahomes. My favorite athlete, my two favorite athletes are Patrick Mahomes and LeBron James, and I will go to the ends of the earth to defend them because they are both great. But anywho, speaking of great, well, actually not speaking of great at all, we got to talk about the Detroit Pistons because obviously Dwayne Casey, he stepped down and moved into a front office position. But when that happens, you have to worry about things like who are they going to get next? And there were some odds that came out on who the next Detroit Pistons head coach is. We've got Charles Lee at plus 300, Kenny Atkinson at plus 400, Jerry Stackhouse at plus 500, Ime Udoka at plus 600, and Jay Wright at plus 700. So Charles Lee is the first one on that list. He's the most likely. He's a Milwaukee Bucks assistant, coached under Mike Budenholzer, and the Bucks have been one of the most consistently excellent teams in the past 5 or so years under Giannis Antetokounmpo. They won a championship. And then the next is Kenny Atkinson. Kenny Atkinson is one of the ones on this particular list that I would not go for. He has head coaching experience with the Brooklyn Nets, but he went 118 and 180 in his tenure. That's not someone I'm interested in. One that's very, very intriguing, third on the list, is Jerry Stackhouse.
Vanderbilt.
Bring Jerry Stackhouse back to Detroit. And I'm glad you mentioned Vanderbilt because obviously Vanderbilt is not a basketball powerhouse.
Right.
He came into a very, very bad situation. The first season he coached at Vanderbilt, they were an 11-win team. Terrible.
It'd be like coaching basketball at Northwestern.
Absolutely. That's a very, very good comparison. But his last season, this past season, he led them to 22 wins. And this is Vanderbilt when I tell you this.
Wow.
2 consecutive NIT semifinal appearances. I mean, it was a
They
quarter.
beat Michigan.
It was either, hey, they did beat Michigan.
They beat Michigan.
Terrible. So Jerry Stackhouse.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get you started on Juwan Howard. I'm sorry.
That is all right.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Sam. I'm sorry.
That is all right. But Jerry Stackhouse, he has shown it's not just because he was a Piston. He built a program from nothing into something that is very, very respectful. We got Ime Udoka fourth at plus 600 and Jay Wright at plus 700, former Villanova coach. That's kind of one that's a little bit out of left field. Is there anyone on this list, Braylon, that intrigues you the most?
I'll go from 5 to 1 and break it down. Jay Wright, it's not happening. Jay Wright is very comfortable with his gig with CBS. He's a suit guy, looks smooth as hell. He won his 2 titles at Villanova. He's on top right now. No reason to leave that booth where he's making a comfortable $4.5 million or something along those lines to come coach the Detroit Pistons where you don't know what's going to happen and you can take shots at your resume. So count him out. Ime Udoka, he's obviously number 1 on this list. He's the best coach on this list. He's arguably top 3 coaches in the NBA currently after what he did with the Celtics last year. But you just don't know what's going on with that situation with the Celtics. They've still been very quiet about it, really hush-hush. He's still technically with the Celtics, which I find is funny. I think they would have gotten rid of him if that was that big of a deal. So you just don't even know, and that's why he's at 4. Stack, I like what you said. He built a program with Vanderbilt. He was able to get to 22 wins. He beat Michigan, who hasn't beat Michigan last year, but good to see him do that. He's from Detroit. We had him on the show. JB Flannel, Fletch, you remember that? Had him on the show, talked to him. He's a great guy, man. I told a funny story about how I messed his grass up when I was a sophomore in college. Great. I think he'll be good. He knows the city, but doesn't he know the NBA landscape yet? I think where the Detroit Pistons are, they're looking for a coach that knows what he's doing now. They're not trying to interview someone. They're not trying to let somebody learn on the job. You mentioned yesterday 80 wins in the last 4 years. They're not looking to hire coaches trying to win on the job or trying to learn on the job. Need a guy that knows what he's doing. Kenny Atkinson, he comes on that Golden State tree. This ain't Golden State. Golden State works in Golden State. You mentioned what he did with the Nets. He's 118 and 180. No thank you. And then he's coming off the Nets bench. This ain't Steph. This ain't Clay. It's not going to work like that. Charles Lee I like. Because he's been on the bench a lot of times with Budenholzer. They obviously won 3 years ago with Giannis. He's seen how that's worked. He's had players. He's seen a Drew Holiday come in and how they worked it. He's seen the relationship between Giannis and Middleton. That will come and play for Detroit because you're going to have maybe Victor Wembanyama, Cade, or maybe Victor Wembanyama and Jaden. So you're going to have to balance personalities. Middleton, Giannis didn't always get along. They found a way to make it work. So I think he would be good. He's seen a lot of changeover in the Milwaukee Bucks organization in the last 5 years, or for the last 4 or 5 years. I think him, Ime, 1 and 2.
I'll tell you what, Charles Lee is kind of that hot young assistant, which I think there is an appeal of that.
Got a young squad.
Absolutely. There's an appeal of that with the Detroit Pistons basketball team, which is obviously young and rebuilding, and Charles Lee, that might not be the worst first head coaching job because they do have talent. They do have Cade coming back. They do have another draft pick. I don't hate that one. Obviously, though, if we're talking about basketball reasons, which with Ime Udoka, it's not just about basketball. He'd be the guy. Yeah. If the Pistons... In a perfect world, if the Pistons could land Ime Udoka as their head coach, we should all be doing backflips because what he did with Boston, when he got there, they were a finals team. When he got there, they were one of the top defensive teams in the league. When he got there, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were playing the best basketball of their careers. It's continued somewhat onto this next year. And Marcus Smart had his best season.
Defensive Player of the Year.
Defensive Player of the Year as a point guard.
If he comes to Detroit, becomes the coach of the Detroit Pistons, he becomes the best coach in Detroit off top. And they have AJ Hinch. And they have AJ Hinch.
I actually agree with you.
He comes here, he's number one coach in Detroit.
I would agree with that. Yeah. He's definitely the most accomplished. I mean, we're talking about Derek Lalonde, Dan Campbell, AJ Hinch.
AJ won, but there's an asterisk.
About to say AJ Hinch.
There's an asterisk.
There absolutely is an asterisk to that. And you mentioned we talk about Jay Wright. That's an interesting one.
He's a damn good coach.
The thing about Jay Wright is, he has a legacy as one of the best college basketball coaches ever. He won back-to-back national championships. But there's a reason why a lot of the great college basketball coaches like Coach K, Roy Williams, Bill Self, Tom Izzo, they never go to the NBA because a couple coaches have tried. John Calipari failed. Rick Pitino failed. And these are national championship coaches in college. Larry Brown is the only one. Larry Brown is definitely the only one. He won at Kansas, one at Detroit. But Larry Brown is one of the best basketball coaches.
John Beilein.
No, he failed miserably.
I know. I'm trying to.
What do you have, like 28, 29 games and was gone?
At the end of the day, like for some coaches, it's a bucket list thing.
Yeah,
like it's a bucket list thing. Like I want to coach in the NBA. I want to get off my resume before. I want to see what the difference is in coaching kids versus coaching millionaires, etc. And now you're coaching kids. You are coaching millionaires in college. But I just want to see what I can do. So this is one of those deals. Yeah, you're right, man. They don't necessarily have success, but two. When you look at these guys getting out the game in college, and we've talked about this a little bit, Jay Wright got out, Roy Williams got out, Krzyzewski got out, Self is about to get out. The guys are Calhoun got out 5, 6. He got out early. Like Calhoun got out about 7 years ago, but no, he got out 2014, and then Boeheim just got forced out. NIL, man, it's making NCAA. Kids aren't coming to college. The ones that are coming, like Hunter Dickinson, like how do you leave Michigan and go somewhere else, like in year 4? Like what that tells me is you didn't feel like you were that dude. You were scared of who you were. You no longer wanted the attention, no longer wanted the spotlight. But you got to deal with that as coaches now, and that's why these guys are like, I get on TV, make 4.5. I'll be home, see my wife. I can travel. Makes sense.
And but all those guys you mentioned, national championship, Hall of Fame, some of the best college basketball coaches ever. But they're sort of a relic of the past.
True. Yeah.
But
Tom Izzo's the only one trying to hang on, and like I think. And we love Tom on the show. Like we can't give him enough credit. So this is I like Tom. I have a great I love Tom. I have a great relationship with him. It is what it is. This was his chance this year. Like this was a sneaky national championship. You talking about sneaking the championship? San Diego State was in the championship. FAU was almost in the championship. Miami was in the Final Four. This was the year for Tom Izzo to sneak that ring. This team coming back with Hogard and
Walker, Jaden Akins, and then we got I know Xavier Booker is their high recruit, Jeremy Fears.
If he doesn't do it with this one, which he's not, because he hasn't won since 2000. If he doesn't do it, if I'm Tom, I just let it go.
Yeah, that's why
I stopped chasing it. He's got a lot of quality of life left. He's under 70. I let it go after this year.
Well, that's why Tom Izzo is sticking around, I think, to get championship number 2 because he's made hella Final Fours, but he's made 8.
I was at the championship when they got waxed by North Carolina. It was at Ford Field.
And for the record, there's no shame in losing to that North Carolina team. Tyler Hansborough, Ty Lawson, Wayne Ellington.
28 and a half. It was about 28 and a half.
And Roy Williams, all-time great coach.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's not at all. But it's an interesting thing when you look at this Final Four last year or this tournament this past season. This tournament could have won by anybody could have became runner-up. I'll say that. UConn was going to win regardless. Anybody could have became runner-up to UConn. And I think this was a missed opportunity by Michigan State because they played some good ball in the first 2 games. I thought this could be it. I think this was the one. He could have snuck this one and rode off in the sunset. I think it's I think this is it.
Yeah, that was one of those teams that wasn't one of Izzo's most talented, but everything seemed to fall into place around them. But that Kansas State game, that was an all-time classic, and Kansas State was just a little bit better. Yeah. This is the last break of the day, and I have to tell you about Custom Health Centers. Are you feeling tired, depressed, or unmotivated, low sex drive, muscle loss, or belly fat?
All of those things.
Testosterone or optimization therapy is a safe and effective way to restore your vitality, confidence, and performance and reduce heart disease. Visit CustomHealthCenters.com today. That's CustomHealthCenters.com.
Saturdays at 1 p.m. Make sure you're watching WoodwardSports.com for our new show, Chompin' Puck.
He shoots, he scores!
With four-time Stanley Cup champion Darren McCarty and Michael Gentry, Chompin' Puck is taking the Detroit hockey community and giving them a voice. Pros to Joes, you'll get the best Detroit hockey coverage around. Chompin' Puck, Saturdays 1 p.m. on WoodwardSports.com.
You don't have to go to the beach, man. You don't have to get your butt crack full of sand. You just need a little chili peppers, man, to get that glowing beach chili peppers tan.
Join the Pepper Club for all the best deals in town. Plus, they will beat all competitors by $5. ChiliPeppersTanning.com. Hottest bulbs, hottest deals, darkest tans. Your vitamin D headquarters.
You just need a little chili peppers, man.
We are the network for Detroit by Detroiters. Welcome to the Woodward Sports Network.
Final segment of the day. It's flying by.
It's over already?
It is over already.
My God,
Started
so
off hot
good.
with like the Jeff Okudah stuff. I know you went in on Jack Campbell. It was a damn good show.
You went in on Lucas. I love watching you guys talk about Patrick Mahomes as well as Joe Burrow. It's fun. It's a good show, man.
It was fun. Lucas is my guy. We're kind of like one in the same, sort of the young up-and-comers of the network, and it's been a lot of fun. We get to do this 3 more times after this.
You're 10 years older than Lucas. Stop it.
I am 10 years
You're
older.
10 years older than Lucas. You knock it off.
That is actually true. People don't understand. I am in my 30s.
I pay attention.
You know. But yes, there's an interesting thing that came out. The NFL's teams with the drunkest fans.
Oh, yeah.
It was something that I was interested in.
This is what I'm talking about. Who gets drunk in the NFL?
You get the Bengals, the Ravens. The Bills is no surprise at all.
Okay.
And the Bears. And there's one thing that all these teams have in common that strikes me right away.
Cold weather.
Cold weather.
Cold weather, baby.
Insulation. You got to keep warm.
It's funny you said that because as soon as I instantly saw it because I played against these teams. And I played in Chicago. It was 2010. It was with the Jets. And it was like December 8th, maybe 6th or 7th, somewhere around there. Man, we got snowed in. It was like -1 with the wind. It was ridiculous. Right off Lake Michigan. Baltimore is a tough place. Buffalo is horrible in the snow. And then Cincinnati gets cold. I mean, it's Ohio. It's right underneath us. So, but yeah, this is Ohio. Anything Ohio makes sense. Like, they drink in Ohio. It's a miserable state, so you got people drinking. Buffalo is a weird time. Makes sense. And then Chicago. When I think of Chicago, I think of St. Patty's Day, the Green River down there. So Baltimore is the only one where I'm like,
That one is a little bit surprising. The Chicago one to me is
Pittsburgh.
I would have thought Pittsburgh,
Cleveland, Pittsburgh.
Those are two that I
Miami.
would definitely have chosen.
Miami got a
over.
nightclub. Vegas.
I mean, those are the ones that you think like party cities year round, especially during
That's
football
true.
season. You could still go to the nightclub. It's still warm in Vegas and Miami. That could be part of it. But yeah, the Bears is definitely
Dallas?
one. Dallas. There's another one.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's some wild people in Texas. Some wild people. That's like its own country.
So I've heard. Yeah. The Bears though, that one isn't surprising at all because that Lake Michigan weather. I mean that the wind off. It's the windy city. It gets freezing cold. Buffalo is the one that I would have guessed as number one. Obviously, you see how crazy their fans are. They're like throwing each other through tables and setting themselves on.
Oh my, they're nuts.
And that's the thing.
I love it though.
And this is what the thing that I think Bills fans and Bengals fans have in common. They are so. I would say that the Bills.
No Super Bowls.
No Super Bowls. The Bills are long suffering. They went to 4 in a row
They're the
and
only
lost
two
all
that
of them.
doesn't have one.
And I believe that the Bengals have been to 3. They lost to the 49ers. They lost to the 49ers twice and then to the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
So they've experienced a lot of heartbreak, those fans.
It's crazy, though. It's funny because now this makes sense at number one, the Bengals, because the mayor of Cincinnati had to be drunk to say that about Patrick Mahomes. Like, that's why they lost. If people want to be honest, between the DBs talking about Burrow head and then the mayor coming out and saying that, oh, yeah, we're going to beat Patrick Mahomes. Now it makes sense why Cincinnati. I knew the mayor was drunk when he said that. I knew it.
He really pissed off the wrong people.
Yeah,
I remember
he did.
that was the most satisfying win as a Mahomes fan, including the Super Bowls. And I remember afterwards when Travis Kelce was like, Burrow had my ass. Why would you piss off them?
Elected officials, their role is to speak after a game is over. Their role is to talk stuff about their champion after the champion wins it, or after you win an NFC, or after you win the Super Bowl, after it happens, or if you don't win, after the game you can say, hey, we had a great season. I can't wait to see what they're going to do next year. You don't talk stuff as an elected official. Who asked the mayor anything?
Nobody asked him anything.
Duggan better shut up. Don't say anything until it's over, okay?
You jabroni. That's also what Travis Kelce said. And I think that is the perfect note to end this show on, Braylon. It was great doing the show with you. JB, great job as always. Fletch, you're the man. You're one of the MVPs around here, as is JB. We'll see you all tomorrow.
I got a bet for you. You guys want a quick bet? Bet on Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat to win this game. I don't care about the regular season. Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, he's a different animal. I don't even watch him in the regular season. But the playoffs, Jimmy Buckets is must-see TV.
Playoff Jimmy has been a thing ever since the days of Chicago.
46 in Game 6 against the Celtics last year. Just saying.
They just about won that series, and they had no business winning that series.
He shot a great shot, wide open look, and he almost drained it for 3 to win that game. Celtics almost weren't even in the finals last year.
And the Celtics were the more talented team.
Not even close.
And the Heat almost blew that one. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully some more breaking news hits that would just
Devin White.
Devin
White, please come here. Detroit Lions want you.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow on Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, 2 to 4 p.m. Wednesday, April 12th. Peace.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on Shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Beverly Hills Golf, Woodward Golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.